The only answer might be for Drake to himself in front of Kendrick Lamar and completely alter the entire course of his life. That's the only way he can win. Hello everyone, I legitimately do not have time to do an intro. If you're new here, it's pronounced Neida. If you're not, hello, welcome back. Please like, comment, and subscribe because this shit took an incredibly long time to put together and I need something to show for it. That all being said, let's hop right into this video. I am talking about the Drake versus Kendrick Lamar beef of 2024. What has been going on? Drake and Kendrick Lamar have been embroiled in a beef the likes of which most of us have never seen. Active beef lasted for about a week in May of 2024, but there is 10 years plus of history and lore behind the beef that add flavor and texture to it. As of now, we might know Drake as someone who is in conversation with the likes of Tupac Shakur and Biggie for the title of the greatest rapper of all time. Now, I am not saying I agree with that. I am not saying that I agree that he should be in those conversations. I'm just saying at this point in his career, people bring it up and other people think it's a legitimate argument and they actually have something to say back. We know him as this now, but if we cast our minds back about a decade, oh God, really 15 years ago, to the late 2000s and early 2010s of the rap scene, we will remember that Drake started out as rap's punching bag. Now, I personally feel that the rap world is in its best equilibrium when everyone collectively has Drake to punch down to. And we've been out of whack for at least a decade. I'd say at least since, if you're reading this, it's too late, or Nothing Was the Same came out. And Kendrick Lamar cracked his knuckles in May of 2024 and he said, I will get us back to God. Single-handedly, I will bring us back to the light of the Lord. And that's how we ended up where we are now. Because the thing is, you think about how Drake was entering the rap scene. He's light-skinned, he's half white, he's from a fairly well-off Jewish family from Toronto. He was already passably famous, at least in my house, okay, because I watched Degrassi growing up before he started rapping. And he's Canadian. Him being able to easily ascend to rap royalty without being teased mercilessly at first just wasn't going to make any sense. It would not have been fair, okay, because he simply had too much privilege. So now, similarly to how every celebrity has been under renewed scrutiny for their stances on political issues and the way that they behave to their fans, all this stuff. We've had all of these headlines about celebrity and celebrity culture. Perfect timing. Here comes the Drake Kendrick Lamar beef to kind of shake up the foundations of what we think of as the pillars of the rap community and rap music. I want to disclaim this by saying, if you hear me say it in this video, this is alleged information. Everything I say in this video is alleged information. Do not call me, okay, and tell me to take this down after I spent 6 hours writing a script and another 4 hours composing a PowerPoint for this because you're mad. No, I'm not saying that I know any of this. I don't know these people. I never met them in my life. I've never spoken to any of these people. I am just a girl with a degree in English who knows how to do research. Okay, I'm going to take the research, compile it, and form a hypothesis. But a hypothesis is what? It is an unproven theory. So everything that I say in this video is alleged information. Second disclaimer, I am not a stan of either of these people. I'm not a stan of Kendrick Lamar, despite what you might think from the intro, and I am not a stan of Drake. I am just a connoisseur of pop culture, and I love mess. I love mess so much! Oh. It's gonna be clear as I go through this video what side I fall on, but that's not to say that I came to that conclusion through any measure of bias. I grew up really enjoying Drake's music. When I was introduced to Kendrick, I thought he was amazing. But at the end of the day, I don't stan men. I don't believe in men, and I don't agree with men. So That's all I have to say about that. As I said at the beginning, please like, comment, and subscribe to this video. I make weekly videos about pop culture topics that I care about. That could be books, that could be movies, that could be TV shows, or that could be errant celebrity drama. I am, at my core, a storyteller, okay? And I understand that the attention span of the children nowadays is not what it used to be. So to help with breaking down this rap beef and carrying you from 2011 to present day, I made a cute little PowerPoint. So let's go over to the board, look at the PowerPoint, and get started. Welcome to the board, my TED Talk on the Drake versus Kendrick Lamar beef of 2024. So we are discussing Aubrey Drake Graham and Kendrick Lamar Duckworth, two American rappers famous for beefing with one another in the year of our Lord 2024. Now, if we're going to talk about this beef, we need to start from the beginning, and that is Megan Thee Stallion's hiss. In January of 2024, Megan emptied the clip on the entire rap community, basically making the last statements about her situation with Tory Lanez. If you remember, in late 2023, Tory Lanez was tried and convicted in a United States court of law of shooting and injuring Megan, and he was thus sentenced to 10 years in prison. The collective response to the initial news of Megan's shooting at the hands of Tory Lanez in July of 2020 was to deride Megan and accuse her of lying instead of, going after the man who shot her. I'm gonna say this, I've never seen so many people ride for Tory Lanez as have since this news broke. Never seen anybody check for him, post about him, talk about his music. Prior to 2020, Tory Lanez was somebody who existed in the music industry, but if he had friends in it, I didn't know about them. After 2020, he may as well be the president of the United States. He may as well be Donald Trump for how many rappers are obsessed with him and love him. Tory decided that he was going to throw her under the bus and proliferate stories about her promiscuity instead of owning up to what he did or even just saying nothing. And this would be his fatal mistake because she has stated that she initially was going to let the whole situation rock, the whole situation being a man shooting her in the foot, and not press charges. But once she heard what he was saying about her, she decided, no, somebody needs to be held accountable for what was done to me, and now he's in prison. The woman's entire brand is that she eats men for breakfast and she loves to fuck, so I don't exactly know what would be discrediting about the fact that she has sex with human men, but misogyny, misogynoir, and puritanical standards of what a proper woman is. Around the same time that these rumors of her sleeping around started to spread, unfounded rumors of Megan lying about the shooting situation, lying that Tory had even shot her in the first place, also started to circulate. And those rumors were mostly founded on the word of Tory that he had not shot her. And as soon as this news started to spread, every ain't shit rapper in the world, including people who had documented beef with Tory Lanez, decided that they were going to side with him over Megan. That list also includes a lot of people who aren't rappers, like LeBron James, and a lot of people who are, as Taylor Swift would call them, the who's who of who's that, because I'm sure you could name 3 people on this slide, but I'm also sure that the other people, who the fuck is that? These men were using Megan's name as a means of getting their own names in the headlines for the first time in a while. And Megan was being dragged through the mud by them, and hiss was her direct response to that. One of these men, as you will see on this slide, was Aubrey Drake Graham. Now, who is Drake? Drake is a Canadian rapper born on October 24th, 1987. He is a child actor originally famous for starring as Jimmy on the television show Degrassi: The Next Generation, who then created a second life for himself as the rapper megastar. Drake has shaded Megan Thee Stallion several times since her shooting in July of 2020. And we are going to go down a timeline of that shade right now. So in November of 2022, Drake dropped a album or mixtape with 21 Savage called Her Loss. Featured on that mixtape was the song Circo Loco, on which Drake says the lyrics, "This bitch lie about getting shots, but she's still a stallion," and potentially this one, "Shorty said she graduated, she ain't learned enough, play your album track 1, K, I heard enough." Then, in September of 2023, he said this about Megan. Oh, jeez. I feel so much better. Okay, yeah, this PowerPoint's gonna go over there. All right. So then in September 2023, at one of his Houston shows, Drake says this. Shout out to Meg one time. Not that Meg. Can't keep her name out his mouth. In February of 2024, Drake posted a picture of Tory Lanez on his Instagram story with the caption 3U, aka Free You. He's a stupid cunt. Now, one of the things that I read online is that the origin of Drake's beef with Megan is not the shooting between Tory and Megan, but rather the fact that he is very close to Jay Prince and Jay Prince's son, and Jay Prince is close friends with Carl Crawford, who is the owner of Megan's former label, which Megan had an acrimonious split from in 2023, I think. That's one theory. My personal theory is that he wanted to she refused, and both are equally as believable to me. As Kenya Moore says, "Don't come for me unless I send for you." And it's clear that Drake never watched that episode. It's clear that he was never engaged in that particular Real Housewives of Atlanta reunion, I feel like he might be more of an Orange County or Real Housewives of New Jersey type of bitch. Anything where the majority of the cast passes the paper bag test. He probably eats Potomac the fuck up. I'm sure he loves the Green-Eyed Bandits. I'm sure he does. I bet he sees himself in them. I think maybe Real Housewives of Miami brings back bad memories for him. So he continued to take shots at Megan, absolutely unsolicited. She was saying very little about him directly in the media. So, 2024, Nicki Minaj jumped in front of a bullet for him after Hiss came out, okay? Nicki seemed to take after a few years of discourse about Nicki's husband, Kenneth Petty's status on the offender registry and his inability to live, work, or even walk within 100 feet of an elementary school, he seemed to grow tired of the discourse. One of the lines on Hiss, as we mentioned, was, "These hoes don't be mad at Megan, these hoes mad at Megan's Law." Now, Nicki seemed to take this Megan's Law lyric incredibly personally. So because Nicki's husband is currently a registered sex offender, she seemed to think that that line was about her. Now, that line could easily be about any number of people in the rap industry, sadly. And also, none of the rest of the song was about Nicki. So, if it was me personally, I would have erred on the side of this shit ain't about me. However, Nicki said, not only is this shit about me, but I am going to take this bullet for Drake. And she began her incoherent series of rants on Instagram stories, which were capped with the release of the diss track Bigfoot and all of its AI-generated imagery. We are not going to talk about that further because, honestly, I'm afraid of barbs. Going back to our lovely desk correspondent Neida's explanation of the lyrics that Megan used to hit at Drake, it's clear that the veneer of untouchability surrounding him had faded away. We say that the Hiss record kicked off this series of diss tracks between Kendrick and Drake because it reminded people of a lot of the shit that Drake has done and also how annoying he is. This renewed conversation also left him in a weakened position so that when the Rap Boys started shooting off diss tracks in his direction in the spring of 2024, he was fair game again after seemingly being untouchable prior. Like a lioness, coming out of nowhere to attack a wounded gazelle. Kendrick knew that if Drake came for him, or if he had a whisper of a feeling that Drake had come for him in this particular period post-Hiss, that he would be able to pounce. And that is exactly what he did. Before we get into that more, let's talk about who Kendrick Lamar is. This is Kendrick Lamar Duckworth, born June 17th, 1987 in Compton, California. He is the only musician outside of the categories of jazz and classical to ever win the Pulitzer Prize in music. He won that in 2018 for his album Damn. He was a formidable opponent for Drake, maybe the only person in the modern day rap game who could take this untouchable man down. Drake and Kendrick have a history though. They have a history of maybe not friendship, but acquaintanceship, colleagueship, prior collaborations, and prior beef with one another. So let's get into some of their prior collaborations. Kendrick made an appearance on what many believe to be Drake's magnum opus, the 2011 album Take Care, on what is called the Buried Alive interlude. And Kendrick Lamar and A$AP Rocky also opened for Drake his 2012 Club Paradise tour. Now remember A$AP Rocky because he is going to be a future recipient of, in my opinion, unwarranted shots from Drake's side in this 2024 beef. In terms of Kendrick Lamar songs, Drake appears on Poetic Justice off of Kendrick Lamar's album Good Kid, Mad City. And Drake and Kendrick Lamar both appeared on a remix of A$AP Rocky's song Fucking Problems. The beef between Drake and Kendrick Lamar, or at least the public element of the beef, dates as far back as 2012. And the North remembers, okay? I was a fresh, ripe freshman in high school, casually listening to music on a weekday when I heard news of this and I said, this is what Drake is mad about? If you remember, Kendrick made an appearance on Big Sean's song Control. On the song Control, Kendrick states, and I'm going to skip the N-word in these because me personally, I have some opinions about some things that Kendrick says later on about the N-word, but we will get to that. Okay, Kendrick states, I'm usually homeboys with the same I'm rhyming with, but this is hip-hop, and them should know what time it is. And that goes for Jermaine Cole, Big Crit, Wale, Pusha T, Meek Mills. Meek Mills is hilarious to me because I love how black people just add S's to things. A$AP Rocky, Drake, Big Sean, J Electron, Tyler, Mac Miller. I got love for you all, but I'm trying to murder you. Trying to make sure your core fans never heard of you. They don't want to hear not one more noun or verb from you. Everyone, including the man who was actively dissed on a feature, on a song, on his own record, seemed to take this very lightly, except for Drake. Since this verse was released, it has been clear that Drake has a problem with Kendrick Lamar. If we don't necessarily know that Kendrick Lamar has a problem with Drake, we know that Drake has a problem with Kendrick Lamar. My personal theory is that something personal happened between them behind the scenes that the lay people are not privy to, but that people in their inner circles probably know about, that caused them to be on shaky ground before the Control verse dropped. Therefore, when the Control verse dropped, Drake took it particularly personally because he knew of what had just happened between them, and he felt like it was a direct shot from Kendrick that was couched in him talking about all these other rap contemporaries. Now, that, to me, requires a level of extrapolation, assumption, narcissism, and jumping to conclusions that I don't personally feel comfortable with. However, Drake is a Scorpio, and he's a man. So it's not very surprising that he would think, oh, this verse on which this man explicitly names several other people, including the person whose album he is being featured on, is all about me. Drake's response to the Control verse did not come in the form of music. They have not started trading direct diss tracks yet. He gave a couple of interviews on which he was directly asked and gave direct answers. So the first time he was speaking to Billboard and he said, it sounded like an ambitious thought to me. That's all it was. I know good and well that Lamar's not murdering me at all in any platform. Then he did a later interview, I'm pretty sure it was with Vibe magazine, claiming that Kendrick was being wishy-washy about the beef because he was nice to Drake in person. Oh, here's the thing that I think people get wrong about Geminis. They claim that Geminis are wishy-washy and two-faced, but the truth is that Geminis can simply hold complexity incredibly gracefully. Fixed signs like Drake and myself, okay, this is a self-read as well, have a lot of trouble with holding complexity and nuance because it requires an acceptance of instability. A mutable sign like a Gemini, instability, they understand that as a part of life, a fact of life. Whereas bitches like me and Drake, like, so which is it? What's the truth? How do you really feel? And here's another thing that I want to make clear. Kendrick very literally says on this verse, I am friends with these people. I am friends with these men, but I am also better than them, which is also a very Gemini statement. I say this as someone who was raised by a man who is very likely a Gemini. I don't really know why him making that statement would mean that he should be icing you out the next time he sees you, because he's saying, I'm friends with you. I fuck with you. I like the music you put out, but I'm still better than you. Or I'm at least working to get to a place where when people think about rap, they think about me and not you. Why does that mean that he would have to be rude to you in person the next time you saw each other? I don't really know. In fact, I feel like coming to that conclusion means that you lack both reading and listening comprehension skills, which is going to be a theme for Drake going forward in this beef. And it's sad because he is beefing with a literal Pulitzer Prize winner. So the first seemingly direct response to the Control verse that we get from Drake is on the language from his sophomore album, Nothing Was the Same, where he says, fuck any that's talking that shit just to get a reaction. Fuck going platinum. I looked at my wrist and it's already platinum. I am the kid with the motor mouth. I am the one you should worry about. I don't know who you're referring to. Who is this you heard about? Now, ironically, for the man who said, if it's really fuck everybody, then it needs to be fuck everybody. It can't just be halfway. He did not seem to stand 10 toes down in this verse, because both him and Birdman claimed later on that this particular verse was not about Kendrick Lamar, even though, who else would it be about? Let's just be 100% honest. Like, who else would it be about? Kendrick's response to Drake's response came in the form of a BET cypher verse in 2013. Now, if you, like me, have 4 Black grandparents, or at least one of them is a praying grandmother, you know what the BET Hip Hop Awards is. The BET Hip Hop Awards happens every year, and each year they have cyphers. So I remember, I think in like 2016, one of the cyphers was the cast of Hamilton, which looking back is so corny, but when I watched it in real time, I was like, this is the best shit that I've ever seen. I remember I told my white friend that the purpose of a cypher is that they're freestyling, like they're coming up with the raps on the spot, and they were like, that can't be true. That can't be true. They didn't come up with this shit on the spot. And I was like, is it? But no, it is, right? Like a cypher, you come up with your rap when you hear the beat. So at the 2013 BET cypher, Kendrick Lamar had this to say about Drake.
I'm the master that masturbated on your favorite MC until the industry had wanted me assassinated. You either corny or an opportunist. I let you eat, now go back to church and steal breakfast at communion. What are we doing? I'm about to crack the Da Vinci Code. Yeah, and nothing been the same since they dropped Control and tucked the sense of the rapper back in his pajama clothes. Ha ha, jokes on you, high five.
And the line specifically that people pointed out as being about Drake was, nothing's been the same since they dropped Control and tucked a sensitive rapper back in his pajama clothes. I'm not going to lie. When he high-fived Schoolboy Q, I laughed out loud. I cackled. I was sitting in my seat cackling because that's funny, okay? You can say a lot about Kendrick Lamar, but you cannot say that that man is not funny. Like, I have been laughing consistently since he came out. And he's funny when he doesn't mean to be. He's funny when he does mean to be. He's just an unserious person in the best possible way. Meanwhile, Drake oftentimes feels over serious. So Drake then responded to the cypher with a verse on Future's song Shit, where he says, and if say my name, he the hot shit, but if I say my name, but if I say the name, he's still the hot shit. Fucked up lucky, I don't feed into gossip, act like they don't know, but they should know. Yeah, I just think it's funny how they dangling the bait, but I'm the one that's killing on the hooks, though. Ain't got a grill. You need to come to OVO for a better deal. Just know a million ain't shit once you get a mill. And say it's all good. That's how you better feel. So a whole bunch of stuff that people said was a subliminal diss towards Kendrick, which would be in alignment with their history because Drake has in the past dissed Kendrick's deal with Top Dog Entertainment, and even to this day dissed Kendrick's deal with Top Dog Entertainment, and also has basically said, if I say anything about him, I'm making him more relevant. Meanwhile, Kendrick said on Pay For It by J-Rock, in dissecting your motor mouth, call back to the motor mouth term that Drake used in his verse on The Language from Nothing Was the Same, till I break down the engine, this ain't no warning shot, this irrelevant henchman. See my opponent, then cease your existence, end in our friendship, baby, I'd rather die alone. So we can effectively say that this is the point where they stop being friends. He said, and I would like to be clear. Remember when I said on Control, we're still friends, but I'm trying to get all your fans. No, yeah, we're not friends no more. Your diaphragm is dietary, what you eating on. Drake's diaphragm is gonna, it'll come back. Capture your audience with these words, boy. The holy chapel, the tabernacle, the book of Matthew, and Jesus staring at you. Take your turn, boy. See? It's going to take a whole lot of y'all to kill me. See? It's going to take a whole tribe of y'all to kill me. I never die. My pedigree apparently only to idolize. Ahead of me is only my future and idle time. Longevity, I gotta get used to making you mine. You telling me I only get used to living if fine. You can never live in my shoes, permanently paid from God. So both Drake and Kendrick's camps claimed that these verses, the ones that you see right here, were not about the other, and that they didn't have beef with one another, even though they were like trading barbs. It's like they're, you know that meme of that guy with the smiley mask on, and then behind he's like crying angry tears? That's what it was giving. They're like, we don't hate each other. We're not talking about each other. What do you mean? So, over the years after this, Drake and Kendrick continued to trade subtle barbs through songs. And what you will see on the screen is an Apple Music playlist that somebody very helpfully put together. I think their name should be on the page, but if you can't make it out, I will link the playlist down below so you can access it. Somebody very helpfully put together a timeline, a chronological timeline of every song where Drake or Kendrick Lamar sneak dissed one another. So some of the barbs traded. On Drake's mixtape, if you're reading this, it's too late, he had subtly dissed Kendrick on both the song Used To and 6 p.m. in New York. On King Kunta from To Pimp a Butterfly by Kendrick Lamar, he said, a rapper with a ghostwriter? What the fuck happened? I swore I wouldn't tell, but most of y'all sharing bars like you got the bottom bunk in a 2-man cell. Now this statement from King Kunta was not initially considered to be about Drake specifically, but after Drake's beef with Meek Mill in 2017, I don't remember exactly. After Drake's beef with Meek Mill, people started to re-speculate that this particular line. So there were also some potential disses on Kendrick's part from Dr. Dre's 2015 album Compton, and a line from The Heart Part 4 off of Kendrick's 2017 album Damn, where he says, don't tell a lie on me and I won't tell the truth about you. And that's gonna come up again later. But even still, there was nothing big enough or worth mentioning enough again until 2024. So really 2015-ish was the end of the hot part of this beef. And I say hot, I think of it kind of like a war or like a Cold War, you know? The war gets hot and then it gets cold, and then it gets hot and then it gets cold. There's like a Cold War going on between North and South Korea right now. The end of the hot part of the beef was about 9-10 years ago, and most casual observers came away with the impression that Drake and Kendrick weren't besties, probably didn't really fuck with each other like that, but likely didn't actively hate one another. That was until spring of 2024. So in October of 2023, Drake releases the third single off of his 8th studio album, titled For All the Dogs, and this single is called First Person Shooter featuring J. Cole. J. Cole's verse is what kicks off the entire reignition of this beef. In fact, let's throw it back to the desk correspondent. Thanks, Neida. Next up, we are going to go over the single First Person Shooter, a song by rapper Drake featuring J. Cole, and primarily focus on the verse that J. Cole included on this song, which kicked off the hot part of the Cold War between Kendrick Lamar and Drake. Looking at this verse, it starts out with the line, "So thirsty to put me in beef, dissected my words and start looking too deep," which is a hilariously ironic way to start off this verse, because this is the verse that put you in beef. You put yourself in the beef by putting this shit together. He probably didn't even realize what he was doing at the time. Love when they argue the hardest MC. Is it K-Dot? Is it Aubrey? Or me? We the big three, like we started a league, but right now, I feel like Muhammad Ali. Now, the discussion about who the best rapper of this generation, who the best rapper of all time has gone on since rap has existed. Most recently, the discussion has seemingly culminated in three mainstream names. Drake, who is the pop princess of rap, J. Cole, who is the biracial lyricist, I suppose, and Kendrick Lamar, who is the Pulitzer Prize winner of the three. To me, there seems to be a clear answer to what that is, if those are the three that we're talking about. However, people love to have these discussions. Now, the line, "We the big three like we started a league," is apparently a reference to the Big Three League, which was started by American rapper Ice Cube. I also want to go a little further down in the song. We're returning to Drake's verse. And okay, so the final line of First Person Shooter that I want to address before we move on, Link talking about when this gonna be repeated. What the fuck, bro? I'm one away from Michael. Beat it, what? At the time of writing this song, Drake was one away from the amount of like Billboard Hot 100 #1 songs that Michael Jackson had. So he was just about to overpass Michael Jackson's record for the Billboard Hot 100, which, because the metrics have changed so much since Michael Jackson's time putting out like singles, I don't know if y'all know this, like if you are under the age of, let's say, 30, a single used to literally be a single, like a cassette and or like little CD and or record, like a smaller record that was just one song. And people would put that out and people would go to the store and purchase this singular song that an artist was releasing. And then based off of like radio play and single purchases, then that's how you would end up on like Billboard records and charts and whatever. And so now with streaming, the metrics have completely changed and people like play singles on the internet. They play them on YouTube and Spotify and Apple Music and all these different methods. But like, it is important to note that if Michael Jackson was to sell however many #1 singles, someone would have to go to a store and physically purchase that thing and then play it in their house, or call into a radio station and request a song, or the radio station of their own volition playing a song. So like the record is not exactly the same. It's a lot easier to sell a bunch of singles nowadays than it was when Michael Jackson was making music. Thanks, Neida. Continuing on, after we get First Person Shooter by Drake featuring J. Cole, we then get, off of Future and Metro Boomin's surprise, I'm pretty sure, mixtape, We Don't Trust You. So First Person Shooter goes out into the world without comment, without response, for nearly 6 months. On We Don't Trust You, there is a song called Like That, which is Metro Boomin Future featuring Kendrick Lamar. And Kendrick Lamar's verse is considered to be a response to what J. Cole said on First Person Shooter, and also the fact that J. Cole's verse appeared on a Drake song. Some slight backstories. There were probably rumblings amongst the diehard rap fans that Drake and Future had a falling out. I didn't know anything about this personally because I stay out of men's business, but allegedly they had a falling out at some point based on Drake trying to sleep with one of Future's girls. The sense of ownership that these people have over women that they or want to makes me sick to my stomach, but we're not going to dissect that too much until later on in the video. I did not realize that they had had a falling out, and it really didn't click in my consciousness until the Like That verse came out. Better people than me have thoroughly analyzed this Like That verse, and it's honestly outside of the capacity of our desk commentator. She is over there frantically trying to put together notes to discuss some of the other songs that are going to come up on this playlist. So I will link down below an episode of one of my favorite podcasts, The Read, where they go absolutely in depth into the Like That verse, everything that Kendrick says about Drake and J. Cole, what it means, all of that, and I'll put the timestamps where they talk about that in the description down below. But some notable lyrics. And he also says, your best work is a light pack, blank, Prince outlived Mike Jack, which is, once again, a callback to Drake saying that he thinks that he is Michael Jackson, or he is as close to Michael Jackson as he can get. And also a call to the fact that Prince is a Gemini, and Prince and Michael Jackson had beef for years, and one of them died after the other, basically. So after Like That, J. Cole decides to drop a song of his own on his mixtape called Might Delete Later, which is a hilarious name for a mixtape when he literally deleted the song that we're about to discuss. Now, I literally wrote on my notes whatever J. Cole dropped, because the way that this song fell out of my brain as soon as he took it back, as soon as he rescinded it and said, I don't want to be a part of this anymore, I said, and I deleted it from my brain. So the song is titled 7 Minute Drill. Thanks, Data. Next up, we will be discussing 7 Minute Drill, the song that J. Cole put out and then very quickly deleted from the internet after deciding that he didn't want the smoke. He didn't want to be involved in anything that was coming. I think he also realized that the beef was a lot deeper than what he was willing to engage with, and so he politely decided to move himself out of the way. So he starts the song saying light work like it's PWC. If you remember, on Like That, Kendrick stated, your best work is a light pack. So now he's saying, here I am doing this light work like it's PWC, which I'm assuming is some sort of public works company from North Carolina, where J. Cole is from. And then there's all this, like, you know, the general rap beef stuff of, I'll shoot you because you mentioned that I'm not as good as you. You know, my dog, like, say the word, he on bullshit, he itching. Done put in so much work in these streets, he got pension. I told him chill out. How I look having henchmen, which is hilarious because Drake is known for having henchmen. If shots get to poppin', I'm the one doing the clenching. So he said, if I am going to go after Kendrick, then I will do it myself. And this seems to be the song in which he's decided to do that. Now, there's honestly nothing particularly, in my opinion, hard in this. There's nothing that made me go oh, while I was listening to it, but I will mention a couple of things. Rap beef ain't realer than the shit I seen in Cumberland. He averaging one hard verse like every 30 months or something, which is a thing that people say about Kendrick Lamar, that he does not put out music often. Now, I don't see how that could exactly be a insult, because Kendrick Lamar has what, 5 albums to his name and a Pulitzer Prize. Meanwhile, you can't shit and get up off the toilet without Drake releasing some album, mixtape, EP, LP, whatever. And the quality with the increase of output has gone down severely. He's putting out a lot of music. Is it good music though? If he wasn't dissing, then we wouldn't be discussing him, which I guess is J. Cole is saying that if Kendrick Lamar wasn't doing a diss record, then nobody would be talking about him. Yeah, because people don't talk about him unless there's music to talk about. Lord, don't have to make me smoke this because I fuck with him, but push come to shove on this mic, I will humble him. It seems like he humbled you because you did delete this song. So he then starts talking about Kendrick's height. Cole World your instructor for Pilates class, get it stretched if I feel the disrespect. Your arms might be too short to box with the god who live his life without the pressures of a constant facade. Yeah, he's short. He's short, so he has small arms. Great. Box with a god who live his life without a constant facade, I guess. But is because he's a Gemini? I can't I can't exactly decipher what that means. Of course he's not like the persona that Kendrick Lamar portrays as Kendrick Lamar is not who he is in his everyday life, because he is a famous person and there is a double consciousness, especially being a Black famous person, that comes along with that. But I'm a person who reads books, unlike Jermaine. So like, I knew that and I assumed that. However, that might be news to him, you know. One of the funny things that he said in this to me personally is that he name dropped the Stone Temple Pilots. Like, say that you have a white mom without saying that you have a white mom. Like, who the fuck is talking about the Stone Temple Pilots in a fucking rap beef? That's like somebody bringing up Queens of the Stone Age. Like, what's going on? I don't know, but yeah. Your first shit was classic. Your last shit was tragic. Your second shit put to sleep, but they gassed it. Your third shit was massive. That was your prime. I was trailing right behind. I just now hit mine. Okay. First of all, I disagree. J. Cole, you are not in your prime. Your prime, it's hard to argue. Before I knew that he started his second album, Born Sinner, with just a slew of F slurs, I would have said that his prime was whenever he had that collab song with Miguel. That's what I would say his prime is. Or 2014 Forest Hills Drive. I love that album. I listened to it back to front. I quite enjoy that. I have not listened to a J. Cole project in years, and that's because he started being very weird, coming after No Name, randomly putting transphobic lines on his music, which we will get into more deeply later on, kind of showing this like weird hotep-y but like uneducated side of himself. He came up with this narrative that people had around him of him being the intellectual of rap music, and he was the one who was going to write bars that really made you think, even if they might also put you to sleep. Him being in his prime, I disagree. Him saying your first shit was classic, your last shit was tragic, sure, maybe he means the last album was tragic because it is such a revealing portrait of a Black family and the problems that might come along with trying to have a normative family structure in a country which has a history that is defined by not allowing people who look like you to have access to that. Maybe that's what he means. Like, it's literally a tragedy. The more simpler explanation, which is what I will go with for a man who self-admittedly does not read books, is that it's tragic as in it wasn't good. Which, okay, sure, whatever. That's your opinion. Now, him saying your second shit put people to sleep. Good Kid, Mad City. I'm still confused, actually, because first of all, I could not get away from the fucking songs on Good Kid, Mad City. I mean, maybe he's saying it put people to sleep in the sense that it's a lot more mellow of an album, you know? Like, there's a lot of, like, turned down synths on that album, like Swimming Pools, Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe, Poetic Justice. All those songs are very, like, low energy songs. So maybe he means they put people to sleep in that way. But then he says put people to sleep, but they gassed it. So no, he means it in the obvious way, which is put people to sleep. It was so bad it put people to sleep, but they acted like it was good anyway. Which once again is hilarious, because this is the album that Drake is featured on one of the singles. Drake is featured on Poetic Justice, which appears on Good Kid, Mad City. And Drake is the friend who you are supposedly defending by jumping in front of this bullet that Kendrick Lamar shot. Lastly, your third shit was massive, and that was your prime. So he's talking about To Pimp a Butterfly was his prime. I mean, fair, because him saying that, damn, I disagree that it was his prime. I think he just like kept getting better and bigger after that. And he did literally win a Pulitzer Prize for the album that came after To Pimp a Butterfly. So I just say all this to say that this, in my opinion, was a very weak response to what was given initially. And he also like takes shots at Kendrick being short. Like, I don't really get what the short thing is about. Because, like, what is you calling me short? Yeah, I'm short. So? Like, what does that do? But anyway, this song is irrelevant to me personally because quickly after, J. Cole decided that he was going to bow out. Okay, he said, I don't want to be a part of this narrative, a la Miss Taylor Swift. All right. There are rumors that Schoolboy Q called him up. Okay, Schoolboy Q, the man who Kendrick was high-fiving in the BET Cypher from 2013, rumors that Schoolboy Q called him up and let him know that he didn't want to be caught in the crossfire of whatever was about to go on. Probably there is something deeper going on between Kendrick and Drake that doesn't have anything to do with J. Cole, and he just happened to be involved because he just happened to bring up Kendrick's name in a song that was going on a Drake album. I really don't think that J. Cole is in any way invested in this beef, particularly because he was featured on the second part to Metro Boomin and Future's mixtape called We Still Don't Trust You, and he's going on tour with Drake. So it's clear that he doesn't have a dog in this fight. Like, he's not siding with Metro Boomin and Future, he's not siding with Drake, like, he's out here to be peace and love. No word yet, however, if Mr. Jermaine Peace and Love Cole has yet apologized for the random transphobia that makes its way onto this mixtape. So after 7 Minute Drill drops and J. Cole decides that he's going to bow out of this beef, Drake decides to step up to the plate. You know, Nicki took the bullet for him with the Megan Thee Stallion situation. J. Cole said, I don't want to take this bullet, actually. He said, actually, here, this is for you. It's not for me. I'm not a part of this. So Drake said, oh, it's looking like I need to come up with a response. So he drops Push-Ups. I'm pretty sure this came out on April 19th, which is the same day that Taylor Swift's new album, The Tortured Poets Department, came out. And I will say that this is a fairly passable response. Once again, I will link a episode of the Read podcast down below where they go through some of the lyrics from Push-Ups and talk about their opinions on the song. It is a pretty good response in terms of rapping. So Drake had put out a pretty good response to Kendrick in the song Push-Ups. But then he tried to pull another back-to-back, a la his beef with Meek Mill in 2016, where he dropped 2 songs back-to-back that basically just absolutely tore Meek to shreds. The most iconic line being, is that a world tour or your girls tour? Because Meek was on tour with Nicki Minaj, his ex-girlfriend from the time when Drake put the songs out. So he tried to pull a back-to-back again with Push-Ups and Tailor-Made Freestyle, but this flopped horribly. On the Tailor-Made Freestyle, he used an AI version of Tupac's voice for the intro, and the Tupac estate ended up suing him and issuing a cease and desist that forced him to take the song down from streaming platforms within the week. Snoop Dogg is also featured on that song, but Snoop Dogg is alive, and he could have just called Snoop Dogg and said, hey girl, can you say this for me? But I'm fairly certain that he would have been like, no, get out of my face. So that's why it ended up being an AI Tupac and an AI Snoop Dogg. We are once again going to throw back to our desk correspondent to tell us all about the barbs that Drake threw at Kendrick Lamar in both Push-Ups and the Tailor-Made Freestyle. Over to you, Neida. As I mentioned, I think this is a valiant effort. I think this is a pretty good diss track response to what Kendrick gave. So he says, I can never be nobody #1 fan. Your first #1 I had to put in your hand. In reference to, as we mentioned, so this is in reference to Rick Ross, who jumped in to this beef, which made me personally sad because once again, Aston Martin music. I loved Aston Martin music. That was such a good song. The song is not that important. The main beef is between Drake and Kendrick Lamar, even though Drake doesn't seem to have enough material to shoot directly at Kendrick Lamar, and so he keeps like picking off side characters. Okay, for Kendrick, he says, you won't ever take no chain off of us, because Kendrick mentioned in the Like That verse that he would be going around snatching chains and burning tattoos. You won't ever take no chain off of us. How the fuck you big stepping with a size 7 men's on? That did make me laugh. That was kind of funny. I mean, if you're gonna make a short joke, make a short joke. Clearly you can't, like, boxing with God? what does that have to, whose arms are too short to box with God? A Tyrannosaurus Rex? But no. How the fuck you big step in with a size 7 men's on? Great. I know my picture on the wall when y'all cook up, which is in reference to the fact that Future, Metro Boomin, and Kendrick did this song together, and Future and Metro Boomin have hit songs with Drake, so his picture and or whatever plaque related to that hit song would be on the wall in the studio while they were cooking up this song. Extortion, baby, whole career you been shook up, cause Top told you drop and give me 50 like some push-up. One of the claims in this song is that Kendrick Lamar was being extorted by his original record label, Top Dog Entertainment, which once again, what a man to claim that someone was being extorted by a record label when he was signed to Young Money. Okay. And if you know anything about like Young Money, Cash Money, predatory record deals, like I read a little bit about it with one of Ice Spice's friends leaked some texts that she had about Nicki Minaj, but Ice Spice was saying that Nicki wanted Ice Spice to sign over her entire catalog to Nicki in order to do the Barbie song. And that's insane because first of all, she's not on your label. She already has a record label. And second of all, Nicki tried to convince her that this is just how the music industry is. So it seems as though Nicki signed over her masters when she entered the music industry and signed with Young Money, and then Wayne ended up selling those masters for a very low price. So she still earns residuals on like publishing credits, but she does not earn residuals off of the songs themselves. I'm pretty sure that that's how it works. So she was trying to do the same predatory extortionist ass thing to Ice Spice, but Ice Spice is a Capricorn and knew better than to accept that deal. So once again, I say it's hilarious that a man who was a part of Young Money would be talking about extortion, but whatever. So the idea is that when Kendrick Lamar signed to Top Dog Entertainment, he had to sign over 50% of all of his earnings. Pull your contract because we gotta see the split. The way you doing splits, bitch, your pants might rip. So Drake is jabbing at Kendrick, but also several of the other artists who have kind of jumped in onto this beef and like gotten onto the, and I never liked you either, bitch train, which people often get onto when anybody is being scrutinized in the public. And he's telling them, pull your contract. You better do that motherfucking show inside the biddy. Maroon 5 need a verse. You better make it witty. Then we need a verse for the Swifties. So Drake is making fun of the fact that Kendrick has worked with like popular white artists. Your entire mother is white. What? Like, what is the diss there? But okay. To say, Top say drop, you better drop and give him 50. And then that's kind of like the refrain. Pipsqueak, pipe down once again. Pipsqueak is just funny to me. That word is, I just find funny. So I'm not normally entertained by a short joke, but pipsqueak is funny. You ain't in no big 3. SZA got you wiped down. Travis got you wiped down. Savage got you wiped down. So he's basically saying like Travis is not Travis. What's his name? Kendrick is not a part of the big 3, as J. Cole mentioned on your song, but whatever. Okay, so we're gonna skip to some of the bigger points. So shut your ass up and make some jokes, and that's so funny. Okay, the thing that's a little bit crazy to me is that he keeps calling Kendrick boy in this. The parallels between like Drake being the child of a slave owner, they just never stop. Why are you as a biracial man calling a black man boy in the year 2024? Why would you think that would be a good idea? And then there's some other stuff too that is like, oh, clearly you didn't grow up around black people. There weren't that many black people around you when you were young, because why the fuck would you do that? There's some shots in here at The Weeknd, who used to be like kind of like a friend and collaborator of Drake, where Drake is claiming that The Weeknd's manager Cash is using his money to pay for male prostitutes, which, oh, gay, that's the biggest diss. You hang out with a gay, like, okay. Hugs and kisses. So he says hugs and kisses XO. Don't tell me about no switches. Kendrick had mentioned in like that, you better have 3 switches instead of whatever the like league that they were talking about was. Drake then says, I'll be rocking every fucking chain I own next visit. I be with some bodyguards like Whitney. Whitney Alford is Kendrick's fiance, as far as we know, his current fiance. There are some claims that Drake makes in this song that they have separated, and he is also saying, I be with some bodyguards like Whitney, because Whitney Houston was famously in the movie The Bodyguard with Kevin Costner, had an affair with her bodyguard. So he's basically, I guess, claiming that Whitney is either having an affair with the bodyguard from Top Dog Entertainment that Kendrick mentioned, or that she's just like running around on him behind the scenes. The rest of this is not like direct disses to Kendrick, but there is some information that I wanted to hit on just because people might be confused about the other players who are involved in this. So as I mentioned earlier, he's hitting at Abel Tesfaye, aka The Weeknd, who he had been in talks to sign him to OVO, but The Weeknd decided, I don't want to be a part of that, because Drake has a history of acquiring artists, not developing them, not marketing them, and then they flop, and he basically like puts up whatever initial money they got. I guess he's writing off their failures as tax breaks. I don't know what the purpose of having a label is if you're not going to cultivate talent. Once again, maybe it's so he can have more henchmen. Okay, so he says in the second verse, I might take your girl and cuff her like I'm Ricky. Can't believe he jumping in turning 50. That was funny. Every song that made it on the chart he got from Drizzy. Spend that little check you got and stay up on my business. Rick Ross was famously used to be a correctional officer, so I might take your latest girl and cuff her like I'm Ricky. He could be talking to anyone with that, but there's also a chance that he's talking about whatever latest girl Kendrick has cheated on his fiance with, because Kendrick himself has mentioned several times that he has problems with infidelity. He is a Gemini man. I'm not saying he's a good person. Drake, we should also note, personally invited Rick Ross's ex-girlfriend of several years to a tour stop of his in Florida, because Ross is from Florida. And Drake also has a reputation for stealing the girls of other rappers in the business. So, I mean, if you had invited my ex-girlfriend to a tour stop, I too would unfollow you, but sure, whatever. This is the best rap song that Drake has put out in years. Like, in years. And it's sad that it took Kendrick Lamar, like, actively attacking him for us to get this, but I thank him for it, because wow, I missed when Drake used to rap, or even just like make music that was fun to listen to and like kind of fun and funny. That is my analysis of Push-Ups by Drake. So we're going to do a quick cursory overview of Tailor Made Freestyle, which Drake put out with the Tupac AI and then had to take down. I don't really want to look at the Tupac AI for any amount of time because it's just stupid. There's also a Snoop Dogg AI, which, like, once again, that is a man who is alive. You could have called him, but you knew that he wouldn't be on this shit, so that's why you had to do an AI. We're not going to look at those verses. What we will focus on are the Drake verses. So he's again talking about his airplane, because on Champagne Moments, Rick Ross had mentioned that his plane was nicer than Drake's or whatever. So he's like shitting on you from a whole different altitude, high up in the sky, like I'm Howard Hughes. The first one really only took me an hour or two. The next one is really about to bring out the coward in you. I guess he's like foreshadowing for Family Matters with that line. But now we gotta wait a fucking week because Taylor Swift is your new top. And if you bout to drop, she gotta approve. This girl really about to make you act like you not in a feud. She tailor-made your schedule with Ant. You out of the loop. Hate all you corporate industry puppets. I'm not in the mood. Not the corporate industry puppet saying that he hates all the corporate industry puppets. I love it when you talk loose like I'm not in the room. Since like that, your tone changed a little. You not as enthused. How are you not in the booth? It feel like you kind of removed. You trying to let this shit die down. Nah. Not this time. You following through. I guess you need a whole nother week to figure out how to improve. What the fuck is taking so long? We waiting on you. The rest of y'all are definitely involved. Y'all getting it too. Soon as you get the courage to drop, I'm out on the loose. So Drake is basically saying, first of all, Taylor Swift runs you. The only reason that you haven't dropped a response to me, because this came out right around the time that the Tortured Poets Department came out. The only reason that you haven't dropped a response is because Taylor told you not to, which is an insane insinuation to make about a woman that Kendrick worked with once almost a decade ago. At this point, it probably was a decade ago. Where are you getting this narrative that Taylor Swift is running him? Like, and once again, why are you saying that it is derogatory for him to be run by a white woman when your actual mother is white? Your full mother is the woman. You came out of a white woman, and you're trying to make fun of someone for being run by a white woman. It doesn't really make sense, but that's what he's saying. And then the other thing that he's saying is, what's taking you so long to drop your response? He put out push-ups and tailor-made freestyle back to back. He's saying, I put this out. You put out like that. I put this out. There was all this time. You're going to leave all this time and make people forget. And then so that whatever you put out will sound better. That didn't end up happening. And we ended up getting an onslaught of music. But he's basically like threatening him, like, put out a song. We're waiting. Whatever you have, I have something ready for you, locked and loaded, ready to go. I know you're in that New York apartment. You're struggling right now. I know it. In the notepad doing lyrical gymnastics, my boy, you better have a motherfucking quintuple entendre on that shit. Some shit I don't even understand. He's making fun of the fact that Kendrick Lamar is known for doing double and triple entendres where like nothing means exactly what he says it means in the songs that he puts out, and everybody like makes a big deal about that, about like his lyricism and the way that he can build metaphors. And he's also saying, I know you're in that New York apartment, you struggling right now. So he is insinuating that Kendrick and his fiance have broken up, and Kendrick has moved into their New York apartment, and they are living separately, basically. Which, okay, and where's the diss? Thanks, Neida. So, the general consensus is that the rapping is good, at least on the first song, on push-ups. But it's really giving that there was not enough material for Drake to actually put together a strong, hard-hitting diss record against Kendrick when he released this. Oh, I also wanted to mention that this is when other artists start to kind of jump into the fray. We get Rick Ross dropping Champagne Moments, which you will see at the bottom here, where he has album art that I'm pretty sure it's either Drake, like, whiteified, like, put through an AI filter to make him white, or a picture of an actual white man that just happens to look exactly like Drake. And on the song, he's accusing Drake of having a poor airplane and being, I don't know. Once again, I will say, all of these are people who I know as having worked with Drake in the past. Metro Boomin, Future, Rick Ross, A$AP Rocky, Kendrick Lamar. From the late 2000s, early 2010s, I remember them having incredibly popular collabs with Drake. And it is very telling to me at this point that these people are coming out of the woodworks to diss him, to kind of kick him while he's down. Moving on from all the other people who have jumped into or put their 2 cents into the beef. Rick Ross's Champagne Moments. I don't really have anything to say about that. He put out a song. It's Rick Ross. Yeah. They're talking about rich shit, like whose plane is bigger and flies better. Like, I don't care about that. That doesn't have anything to do with me. However, after the rescindment of the tailor-made freestyle, Kendrick finally responds to Drake about a week later. I remember this distinctly because I had gotten in the car with my friend. We were going to H Mart to get a snack, and I wanted to play a song for her. I wanted to play Espresso by Sabrina Carpenter because she doesn't listen to white music. And I bring her white information. She keeps me abreast of the black stuff. It's really, we keep each other hip in that way. And I said, I will play you this song. And she said, okay, but first, Kendrick responded to Drake, and I need to show it to you. And we sat in the H Mart parking lot and screamed as we listened to Euphoria by Kendrick Lamar. Now, Kendrick decided that he wasn't just going to respond, he was going to go the fuck in. It is named after the show that Drake co-executive produced, which does just so happen to feature a bunch of characters who are meant to be teenagers in various states of undress, fucking each other, and one of those characters is sexually obsessed with a trans girl when Drake may or may not be a chaser. That's one thing that I feel like nobody has really talked about, and honestly, thank God. I've heard the rumor of Drake being a chaser for years. Like, I've heard the rumor of him being a chaser for years. I'm glad nobody brought it up directly because that would have pissed me off. That being said, it is interesting. But in this song, Kendrick really gets into the psychological problems that Drake has, like the issues that he has with himself. I'm going to once again link down below an episode of The Read where they literally spend the entire episode breaking down the song Euphoria. And we will soon go to our desk correspondent. She is just absolutely chomping at the bit to get a word in edgewise. Thanks, Neida. We are going to be breaking down Euphoria, the Kendrick Lamar record that really gagged the girls and kind of threw a wrench in anything that made Drake think that he could potentially win this. Better people than me have broken down this entire song at length. I will actually link an episode of The Read down below where they break it down thoroughly, but I wanted to talk about some of the things that I felt like weren't touched on in that episode and things that I feel like are necessary to know to contextualize the beef moving forward. So he calls Drake a pathetic master manipulator. I can smell the tails on you now. You're not a rap artist. You're a scam artist with hopes of being accepted. Tommy Hilfiger stood out, but FUBU had never been your collection. I make music that electrify him. You make music that pacify him. I can double down on that line, but spare you this time. That's random acts of kindness. He's basically saying that Drake is struggling with an identity crisis and he is becoming a rapper to get closer to his blackness, but it's a scam because he does not really connect to the culture in the way that people who were born and raised in it do. Kind of would be like me becoming a rapper, because I could become a rapper. I couldn't become a rapper and talk about how I grew up gangbanging and how I'm from the inner city of wherever and all the virtue signaling that people do that goes along with rapping, because that would be a lie and it also wouldn't make sense. And yet that's what Drake is doing. So the line that I really want to point out here, I make music that electrify him. You make music that pacify him. Fair assessment. And he says, I can double down on that, which I think is a callback to the line that Drake had in Tailor-Made Freestyle about the like quintuple entendres or whatever. But he says, I'm not going to do that because I don't have to. I can be very direct here. You're not a rap artist. You're a scam artist. Okay. Another line that I want to point out along this thread of Drake having an identity crisis. Oh, you thought the money, the power, or fame would make you go away? Which is just along the old adage of wherever you go, there you are. Money, power, and fame cannot alter the fact that you are exactly who you are. And he's basically chipping at that like gold lame on the armor that Drake has. So there is also a line in here after the, I hate the way you walk, I hate the way you talk, I hate the way you sneak this, which I think, in my personal opinion, is going to go down as one of the greatest rap lines of all time, because bring back hate. Non-specific, non-dangerous hate. Let's just hate things again, let's just be mad at things again. But he says, we hate the bitches you fuck because they confuse themselves with real women. Now, personally, I assumed that this was a transphobic line. I was scared for a second. It could still be. He has not clarified. I don't know that he ever will. But I have heard rumors for a long time that Drake is a chaser, that he loves the girls, that he loves the dolls, and he does not know how to leave them alone. And so I was scared when I heard that line. We hate the bitches you fuck because they confuse themselves with real women. And I said, is this not the man who has a song about his internalized transphobia? Interpretations that I've seen of this line are that he is either on his, womb man hotep shit, talking about how like the IG models and stars that Drake has sex with are not real women because, Kendrick hates weave and wigs. He likes natural hair, no makeup. This would probably give him a conniption. Or that he's talking about the minors that Drake has allegedly been involved with. Okay. He also says, I like Drake with the melodies. I don't like Drake when he acts tough. I agree, sir. I agree. Let's go back to One Dance, okay? let's go back to Nice for What? Okay, Nice for What? He put out Nice for What and then immediately became the man that the song Nice for What is about. And I personally think that that's very evil of him. He then says, yeah, my first one, like my last one, it's a classic. You don't have one. I will personally disagree with that. This is a reference to the J. Cole line from 7 Minute Drill where he says that Kendrick Lamar's albums weren't good or boring or put people to sleep, whatever. And then he responds and says that Drake doesn't have a classic. I disagree. I think Take Care is a classic. I think it's an excellent album. It also happens to be the album that Kendrick Lamar is featured on. I don't think that outside of that, a single body of work that Drake has put out is cohesive enough and musically, like artistically interesting enough to be considered a classic. But Take Care feels very honest and raw, and I love it. And I do believe that that is his classic. But then he follows that line up and says, let your core audience stomach that, then tell them where you got your abs from. Yeah, he most likely got ab etching surgery, a thing that Drake has not denied. He has denied some other things. That he's denied the pedophilia. He has denied the claims that he's weird. He has not denied that he has either had ab etching or a BBL. So then we're going to get into some things, once again, that I want to talk about because I feel like this song and a lot of the songs in this beef going forward teeter on the edge of homophobia. So he says, I'm knowing they call you the boy, but where is a man? Because I ain't seen him yet. Matter of fact, I ain't even bleed him yet. Can I bleed him? Bet. When I see you stand by sexy red, I believe you see two bad bitches. I believe you don't like women. It's real competition. You might pop ass with them. Let's speak on percentage. Show me your splits. I'll make sure I double back with you. You were signed to it. Who was that signed to it? That said he was signed. I laughed. Okay, see, here's the thing. I grew up black in the United States of America, so I know something about Cash Money, Young Money, and the history of that. But Drake was signed to Young Money, which was under Cash Money, which was under Universal. So he's saying, you're talking about splits. You're talking about percentages. How many people does your money have to go through before it gets to you? You know, let's go back though. There's always, I feel like, been some like rumblings about Drake being potentially gay, queer, whatever. What I see in this song, and I might be reading into it too much, when I see you stand by sexy red, I believe you see two bad bitches. I believe you don't like women. It's real competition. You might pop ass with them. There is a level of misogyny that Kendrick is calling out, but also a misogyny that is rooted in jealousy. And one of the things that we say is like the worst thing that a man can do is be jealous of the woman that he's with, or any woman really, because how are you a man and you're jealous of a woman? You must want to be her or be like her, and wanting to be like a woman, wanting to be feminine is the ultimate sin that you can commit as a cisgender heterosexual man in this society. I don't necessarily agree with that assertion. I think that this is one of the more ignorant lines in this, but you know, once again, Hotep popping out. One thing that I do want to point out, which I thought was hilarious. Am I battling ghost or AI? Feeling like Joel Hale Osteen. Funny, he was in a film called AI. So this is the very black thing of seeing any white person and believing them to be another white person. There's a whole joke about that on Abbott Elementary with Barbara not knowing who, like, the difference between white and black celebrities. But he accidentally calls Billy Joel Osment Joel Osteen in this song, which is hilarious, because he's talking about AI, which is a movie that Haley Joel Osment was in, but then he also says, and my sixth sense telling me to off him. Sixth Sense is another movie that Haley Joel Osment was in. Joel Osteen is just a white man from Texas who likes to steal. So it could have been a purposeful double entendre. Could have been. We don't know. Another very funny section to me, I did not realize until I listened to the read that he was doing a Toronto accent, because the Toronto accent is so odd to me. The way that black people speak in Canada, period, is very odd to me. He says, don't speak on the family, Crody. It's like They're on the ocean. Don't speak on the family cruddy. It can get deep in the family cruddy. Talk about me and my family cruddy. Someone gonna bleed in your family cruddy. I be a new hoe king eating fried rice with a dip sauce and a blammy cruddy. That's just so funny. As an American black, that's hilarious. They say this shit to each other with a straight face, like dead ass mad. Tell me you're cheesin', fam. Tell me you're cheesin', fam. I wouldn't last a minute, because if somebody said that to me, I'd laugh in their face, and then they'd kill me. So that is the like most pertinent parts of Euphoria that I wanted to go over, the things that I wanted to mention. But once again, I will link a full analysis of the song down below. Kendrick talking about how much he liked the record back to back, and then he decided, I'm gonna do a back to back, but I'm not just gonna do back to back, I'm gonna do it better, bigger and better. And he exactly did. So Euphoria gagged the girls, right? The lyrical content, the just absolute pulling apart of the psyche of the biracial rapper was masterfully done. But 616 in LA, for me, is one of the most poetically written rap songs that I've ever encountered. There's like all of these references to classical antiquity, these like beautifully constructed and like followed through on metaphors that he weaves throughout it. It's just a really beautifully written rap song, and also horribly disrespectful, which leave it to a Gemini to remind us that those two things can exist at the same time, right? 616 in LA is produced in part by Jack Antonoff. This is in a way a hit back at Drake's claims from push-ups that Kendrick Lamar is Taylor Swift's bitch, which is like, anyway, that's insane to me because they work together literally one time. Like, maybe they're friends, maybe they're friendly, but like, if Kendrick Lamar making one song with a white woman that charted #1 worldwide is him being considered her bitch, what does it mean that Drake has a baby with a white woman? Like, what does that say? I'm asking questions because I would like to know the answers, but I know that I never will get them. Thanks, Nita. Okay, so we are next up going to talk about 616 in LA, which honestly reads like a poem on poetry.com, and it is also incredibly mean. I want to focus on unpacking some of the metaphorical aspects of this song as opposed to like the diss stuff. The main diss thread is that there's a mole in Drake's OVO camp who is feeding him false information and then giving information to Kendrick and any of Drake's adversaries to lead to his downfall. But I just want to talk about the writing and the metaphor because I'm a writer. Off-white sunseeker at the marina, fuck a phantom. I'd like to buy yachts when I get the fever. Even just this first line has so many fucking meanings in it that I could write a dissertation about this entire song. Off-white sunseeker at the marina. Off-white sunseeker Drake. At the marina, Drake loves being on boats. Sunseeker is a type of boat. At the marina also sounds like at them arenas. Fuck a phantom because Drake is light bright, and phantom is also a type of car. Then he says, I like to buy yachts when I get the fever. Once again, Drake is obsessed with purchasing yachts. Off-white sunseeker at them arenas. He is seeking validation, seeking sun, seeking light from outside at arenas, but not getting it because he is, at his core, a phantom. Wine cooler spill on my white t-shirt. The sightseer. Wine cooler is he's saying this is like a foreshadowing for blood being spilled, but also Drake is a famous fan of wine-based cocktails and wine coolers. My Visa passport tatted. I show up in Ibiza. This is mentioned as being like about the fact that Kendrick does book international shows, but I also think that it's about how Drake is kind of like the aimless traveler of the rap community. He's not from anywhere, he's from everywhere, and he like takes his passport and travels around the entire world and just shows up randomly in places, and suddenly that's his new personality. Who could reach us? Only God could teleport this type of freedom. God, my confession is yours, but who am I if I don't go to war? As a bitch who was raised by a Gemini man, I know exactly what the fuck he's talking about. He says, who will I be as a person if I don't end this man right now? I won't be able to live with myself. I need to do it. There's opportunity when living with loss. I discover myself when I fall short. So he's talking about the like short jokes that people have made about him, but he also is saying, I discover myself when I fall short. There's a beautiful line from, it's either from Damn or Mr. Morale, where Kendrick is saying that when other people make mistakes, they blame the devil, but when he makes mistakes, he blames his ego. That's a level of self-awareness that most men alive do not have. Most people alive do not have, let alone men. So he's making this confession, apologizing almost to God about what he's doing, what he's about to do, what his anger is driving him to do. But he's also saying there's opportunity when living with loss. I do think this is a slight confirmation that his relationship is over and that he is single right now. But he's also realizing his role in the end of that relationship is partially because of his vindictiveness, maybe, but also he's discovering more about himself. So he's saying, I'm going to war anyway, but it's okay because I will go on this journey of self-discovery as I end this motherfucker. Raise my hands to a fallen sky. I fantasize, me jumping planets immortalized. I correspond. 3 angels watching me all the time. Put my children to sleep with a prayer, then close my eyes. Definition of peace. So he's got 3 kids. They're the angels watching him. I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory. Tell me, who won't stop me? I come from love. Estelle, cover my heart, then open me up. Remember when picked up a pen, lyrics that I can trust. Timid souls stare in the mirror, asking where I was from. Often, I know this type of power is gonna cost, but I live in circadian rhythms of a shooting star. He's saying that he knows that the level of talent that he has, there's a trade-off there, but he lives in circadian rhythms of a shooting star. He's not sleeping in the way that normal mortals are sleeping because stars exist for like so long. On the grand scheme of things, stars exist for so long. We see a shooting star cross our sky for a short period of time, but the actual amount of time that that star is taking to travel is like geometric time. And so he's saying that he is so legendary that he is beyond the like mortal timeline. And so he knows the power is costing him, but the trade-off for that is the certainty that his legacy will last beyond his lifetime. The mannerisms of Raphael, I can heal and give you art. Raphael is an archangel, but also Raphael, the Renaissance painter, and Rapha means healing in Hebrew. And once again, Kendrick may or may not be a Hebrew Israelite. But the industry's cooked as I pick the carcass apart. So he's using this Drake beef to kind of like expose elements of the industry. Yeah, somebody's lying. I can see the vibes on AK. Even, or AK, I don't know. Even he looking compromised. AK. Let's peel the layers back. DJ Academics, we don't even have to talk about him. I don't want to talk about him. I hate him, and I hope he's having a horrible day. I want to then again skip down from like some of the more like beefy aspects of it and get down to the bottom of the song. Your low memes is losing steam. They figured you out. The forced opinions is not convincing. Y'all need a new route. It's time that you look around on who's around you before you figure that you're not alone. Ask what Mike would do. Once again, 5 meanings in this just like stanza of poem. Now, your low memes is losing steam gives me that he's talking about the meme that Drake put out after. Like after Euphoria came out, he posted a video of a clip from 10 Things I Hate About You where like Julia Stiles is crying or whatever, and he's like laughing, I guess, at that. But nobody thought it was funny because they were like, first of all, stans are supposed to be doing this, not literally the artist that they're standing, and second of all, like, I mean, it kind of gives that, but was he wrong? The forced opinions is not convincing. Y'all need a new route. There are a lot of things in this beef that come up that I saw on Reddit. Either right before Drake said them in a song, So it's either that they're posting things on Reddit to like proliferate into the world, or they're going on Reddit and finding the ideas that people have already had. The forced opinions are not convincing. I agree. Y'all need a new route. It's time that you look around on who's around you. Before you figure that you're not alone, ask what Mike would do. So Michael Jackson was famously killed by a member of his personal staff, his doctor that he had on retainer. I think the man was convicted of involuntary manslaughter. We don't know if it was a purposeful murder, if he mixed up the medication in a certain way on purpose, but he died of an overdose of several sleeping pills. And one of the things that is on the cover of the next song that Kendrick puts out is Drake's alleged prescription for sleeping pills. So Michael Jackson was killed by a member of his staff, someone who was on his retainer, someone who he was paying directly. And he's saying, before you figure that you're not alone, so before you start trusting these people around you, ask what Mike would do. But he's also mentioning the song You Are Not Alone by Michael Jackson, which was, funnily enough, written by R. Kelly. R. Kelly, the convicted pedophile who is currently sitting in jail. And also Michael Jackson, the rumored pedophile who is dead. Ask what Mike would do. Michael Jackson also has a song called The Man in the Mirror, where he's talking all about ego and self-reflection and changing your life based off of looking back and making new choices. So he's basically advising him, don't go down. He's telling him, this is a thread throughout all of these songs. He's like, I'm trying to help you, sir. I'm telling you there are moles in your camp. I'm telling you these people don't fucking like you. You're comparing yourself to Michael Jackson, who's a person who was famously killed by somebody who worked for him. Look around, look inward. You're living your life on autopilot. You're living your life in this nasty ass way that is only going to negatively impact you in the long run. So take the time that you have now to do some introspection and make some different choices and live your life a different way. And then maybe you can defeat this fate. Drake doesn't seem willing to do that. And that is why I honestly really love 616 in LA. So we're going to be flipping back and forth between me and the desk correspondent very quickly for the rest of this segment, because next up we have Family Matters, which is Drake's response to Kendrick Lamar's 616 in LA and Euphoria. I'm just going to throw it over there. We're going to look at the lyrics. So to analyze Family Matters, I think it's important that we kind of talk about the title of the song and also the players who are being called out in the song. The title of the song is, of course, Family Matters, which is a reference to the late 80s, early 90s sitcom of the same name, but also a reference to Kendrick Lamar's quote-unquote Family Matters that he is refusing to address, or that Drake is claiming to air out to the public. What I'm noticing as well in this title is that it could in itself be a little double entendre of the family matters between Drake and his several friends or former friends who seemed to have betrayed him over the course of this beef, and the matters that they are bringing to the public as opposed to dealing with him personally. These are people who he apparently saw as family in the past who now do not have positive relationships with him, and he is calling them out for addressing their problems with one another in the public sphere first instead of coming to him. I want to go through each of the people who he calls out in specific on the song and the verses that he uses to call them out and my own interpretation of them. We're going to start with Rick Ross because honestly he's a non-entity to me personally in this beef. On this song, Drake says he's fat, he's on Ozempic, and calls him out for being a cop who ripped a gangbanger's life story to turn into a rap career. He wasn't a cop, he was a correctional officer, but it's interchangeable basically in the world. They're saying he's fake. Next up, we'll talk about A$AP Rocky and Rihanna, because I have to say that I was shocked to hear the name Fenty on a Drake song that came out in the year of our Lord 2024. So this is the verse that he addresses to A$AP Rocky. Rakim talking shit again. Gassed cause you hit my BM first. Do the math. Who I was hitting then. So Rocky apparently was featured on a song on Future and Metro Boomin's album, We Still Don't Trust You, and the song is called Show of Hands. On this song, Rocky says the following: call up Pluto, Metro, should have put me on the first one. Pluto is what they call Future, I guess, and Metro is Metro Boomin. Should put me on the first one, swear they bitch the baddest, I just bagged the worst one. In the feelings over women, what you hurt or something, I smashed before you birthed, son. Flacco hit it first, son. Then he goes on to say, still don't trust you, it's always us, never them. Heard you dropped your latest shit. Funny how it just came and went. Also, this is seemingly a response to when Drake dissed A$AP Rocky on his latest album, For All the Dogs, and Drake says, I ain't pretty Flacco, bitch, this shit get really rocky. Damn what? Dirty how I did him in the Wraith. Do I know what he's talking about? No. Personally, I don't. If you do, let me know in the comments down below. This is the like minutia of personal relationships that we get into sometimes in these rap beefs, that is like, because he scuffed your shoe in 2013, you will never speak again, and you will reference it 15 years later in a song. Like that is also a dimension to rap beef. But the thing is, Drake doesn't like A$AP Rocky because A$AP Rocky has children with Rihanna. And like, Drake was sexually obsessed with Rihanna for over a decade. It's very clear to me. It's very clear to me personally what Drake's issue with A$AP Rocky is. But he goes on in this verse on Family Matters to say, I ain't even know you rapped still, cause they only talking about your fit again. Probably gotta have a kid again for you think of dropping any shit again. Even when you do drop, they gonna say you should have modeled cause it's mid again. Smoking Fenty about it, should have put you on the first one. Trying to get it in. Ask Fring if this a good idea the next time you cuddled in that bed again. She'll even tell you leave the boy alone for you get your head split again. So Fring is apparently a nickname that Drake had for Rihanna when they were together, because she was really into the TV show Breaking Bad, and her favorite character was Gus Fring, who was one of the villains. And Drake is saying, LOL, I had sex with your woman. Isn't that so funny? But like, you famously had sex with her. You famously dated her. You also famously had a baby on her while you were together. So like, you also famously were so butthurt and in your feelings about the fact that she actually had the audacity to cut you off and go date a sexy billionaire after you guys broke up, that you teamed up with her ex-boyfriend who famously domestically abused her for what, a song? And now you're shouting him out in this song, but we'll get to that later. He doesn't really seem to diss Rihanna in this, but like, why is her name in your mouth? Why is the name of somebody who you have not seen naked in maybe 7 years in your mouth? That's kind of wild to me. So next up, we are going into The Weeknd, who was a collaborator of Drake's. They both like came up in the Toronto like rap and R&B scene in the 2010s, and Drake was OVO. Meanwhile, The Weeknd was EXO. To The Weeknd, he said, knew it was smoke when Abel hit us with the serenade. Now, Abel, The Weeknd, was featured on We Still Don't Trust You. We Still Don't Trust You is kind of like a Avengers style meetup of all the Drake haters getting together to make music. So yeah, he said, knew it was smoke when Abel hit us with the serenade. If Drake shooters doing TikToks, really shooter in your gang, that's P's brother. Y'all ain't getting shit shot. Can't listen to the stick talk in falsetto. Save it for a hip hop. You don't even be at home, dog. You a souvenir out the gift shop. Still mad about that one hoe. We ain't even fuck. I just lip locked with her. So this is a response to The Weeknd mentioning on one of the songs on We Still Don't Trust You. He said, they shooters making TikToks got us laughing in the Lambo. So he's talking about Baka Not Nice, Drake's shooter, and that was one of the lines. There were some other like subliminal things that The Weeknd has put out since him and Drake had his falling out. But when The Weeknd and Bella Hadid finally ended their relationship, I think it finally ended in 2019. They haven't like been back together since then. Drake was allegedly seen kissing Bella Hadid. That's what that last line, still mad about that one hoe, we ain't even fuck, I just lip locked with her. Imagine calling Bella Hadid a hoe. I agree with Kendrick when he said, I believe that you don't like women. Yeah, it's all this stuff about shooters. I really don't care about any of that. I did think it was kind of funny when he said, can't listen to the stick talk in falsetto. That made me laugh. That made me laugh. Oh yes, you don't even be at home, dog. You a souvenir out the gift shop. So It's because The Weeknd has moved from Toronto to LA, and Drake is bi-coastal. He's living in both Toronto and LA, I think. He has a house in Miami. I don't know where he lives, but he does have a home base in Toronto. So he's saying that The Weeknd is so disconnected from the scene in Toronto that he basically is a souvenir at this point. Okay, so he goes on to say, Weeknd music getting played in all the spots where the boys got a little more pride. That's why all your friends dip into Atlanta, paying just to find a tour guide. Abel, run your fucking bread. Need to buy some more chains for some more guys. The idiocy of this particular line, the idiocy of this line and the homophobia of this line is so frustrating to me because, first of all, Weeknd music getting played in all the spots where boys got a little more pride. Why do you know that? Why do you know what the spots where the boys got a little more pride are? Second of all, the boys who have a little more pride also love Drake. They also throw ass to a Drake song. So what exactly are you talking about? Is it a diss that they play music in the gays club? You know what the gays have? Disposable income, because they don't have children like a lot of straight people have. And when they do have children, they're not going to the club anymore. So like, gay pride is actually a really good event for people to go to and make money, because the gays love the divas, they love the dolls, and they're gonna show out for them. If The Weeknd plays a gay pride, like, who gives a fuck? If The Weeknd is playing in a gay club, who gives a fuck? Like, he's making money because people like him. Okay, that's why all your friends dip into Atlanta, paying just to find a tour guide. It's widely known in the Black community that Black men move to Atlanta. There's a large Black male queer community in Atlanta. To that, I will also say, Drake, are you not currently in your Atlanta era? Like, he's currently in his Atlanta era, talking about how The Weeknd's friends are dipping to Atlanta to use his money to buy men chains. It's just giving that's gay as an insult. Like, when you say that's so gay, do you hear what you say? I used to see that commercial in between scenes of Degrassi, and the fact that, like, we've come this far. We've come to Drake being like, LOL gay, when his entire story arc on that show for like a whole season was that he was the only one of the friend group who was actually accepting of their gay friend. How far the mighty have fallen. Okay, so next up, let me see another street I can take to the game courtside. Let me get a used Ferrari for a rapper, on a horse ride, anything to take the spotlight off the fact the boss is a drugged out little punk sissy from the north side. So this is just him, like, making fun of things that The Weeknd is allegedly doing, or that The Weeknd's team is allegedly doing behind the scenes to take heat off the fact that The Weeknd is a quote-unquote sissy. Once again, more homophobia. Who gives a fuck? Who gives a fuck? I don't care. Come with something stronger than gay. Come with something stronger than gay. We'll get into this again later. We'll talk about some of the insults that he hurled at Kendrick a little bit later. But let's get into Metro Boomin and Future. One of the line that he directs to Metro is just like how Metro slimed him for his main squeeze. That is a line about how potentially either Young Thug or Future slept with one of Metro Boomin's women that he was in a relationship with. And then Future, he says, Pluto shit make me sick to my stomach. We ain't ever really been through it. Leland Wayne, he a fucking lame, so I know he had to be an influence. These had a plan, and they finally found a way to rope you into it, so that the you in that line is Kendrick Lamar. 2 separate albums dissing. I just did a skim through it. He's claiming in this that his beef with Future isn't really based off of anything except the fact that, like, Metro Boomin is mad at him for some reason, and Metro Boomin got Future to be on his side. So he's really, like, hurt about the fact that Future isn't his friend anymore, which kind of sad. Like, on a human level, that's kind of sad. Like, you are friends with someone and then they just, like, kind of stop talking to you. You don't really know why. And then all of a sudden they're out here with a bitch that you don't like making diss tracks. Like, sad. But at the same time, there has been this persistent rumor that Drake slept with one of Future's girls. Once again, there is this, like, prevailing theme of ownership over women. The big themes of misogyny and homophobia just cannot, like, rap music just cannot escape them. I guess Metro told him about it, or Metro made up the rumor, or whatever, but he's claiming that there is no real reason for him and Future to have beef, and that the source of the beef is Leland Wayne, aka Metro Boomin, and that the album that they made, the 2 albums that they made talking about how much they hate him, are so boring that he just skimmed through them. Okay, so let's get into Kendrick, who is the bulk of the diss on this rap. The thing is that this is like a 7-minute song, but it's not all about Kendrick Lamar. My favorite part of the entire music video, because he did film visuals for it, was that they went to New Ho King, which is the restaurant that Kendrick name drops in Euphoria when he's doing his Toronto accent, and they got the owner to wear a bunch of Pharrell's chains, which Kendrick also mentions in the song. Like, that's just like pure Nana and Boo Boo shit that I personally find to be pettily entertaining, and I love it. But he diverts from Kendrick several times because there's a lot of other people that he feels it's necessary to address. But it also feels like there's just not that much material about Kendrick to make an entire 7-minute song focused on him, the same way that Kendrick made an entire like 6-minute and 30-second song focused solely on Drake. Because Drake has a lot of psychological problems that I feel like Kendrick was peeling apart in the songs that he was making. Whereas Kendrick, like he said, I'm sorry, I live a boring life. You know, there's not that much out there. But there are some big things that Drake does mention in the song. So about Kendrick, he says, you better have some paperwork or that shit fake tea. Can't be rapping about no rattin' that we can't read. Fake tea on a song where you also make fun of people for being allegedly gay and or affiliated with the gays. I'm just gonna leave that there. Fake tea and homophobia from the same man who will post on Instagram doing duck faces in bobos and flower clips. The call is coming from inside the house, sir. Always rapping like you about to get the slaves freed. You just acting like an activist. It's make-believe. Don't even go back to your hood and plant no money trees. So these words are bars of rap, yes, but they are also like verifiably incorrect, like false, not the truth. Now, the thing about the thing that makes rap beef interesting is that we learn information about people that we would not have otherwise had. Him saying, you acting like an activist is make-believe, don't even go back to your hood and plant no money trees. No, he's not going to, let's say, downtown Miami, which, for the record, is not even Drake's hood, but downtown Miami, as Drake did in the God's Plan music video, and handing cash out to individual people. Sure, he's not doing that. And I do think that that is something good that Drake has actually done, is that a lot of the time charitable donations do not suffice to repay and make payment to fix problems that people are actually having in their everyday lives. A lot of the time, the only answer is money. Speaking of which, subscribe to my Patreon, link down below. However, Kendrick Lamar does do a lot of charity in Compton, so much so that he was given the key to the city in 2016. He doesn't even really act like an activist. Like, he does not put himself at the forefront of movements and say, I'm Kendrick Lamar and I approve this message. He kind of just like stays in the house and then makes music about how he wants us to care about ourselves and love ourselves and not be subjugated by white supremacy. Like, he's not acting like an activist, so that's just not the truth. And also, like, always rapping like you about to get the slaves freed. When I was listening to the read, they made a joke that his the alleged ops in Drake's camp set him up with that line, because do you know how fucking egregious it is for a mixed race Canadian man to talk about how someone who makes music about how Black people, the struggles that Black people have gone through as a people for several generations in this United States of America, how that is music, that he is rapping like he's about to get the slaves freed. Like, does he not understand the optics of any of this? Kendrick said on the last song, we don't want to hear you say the N-word anymore. And it's because of shit like this that we don't want to hear it. Because it's just like no thoughts had empty. So they were just like joking and saying that they set him up because this is one of the stupidest and most egregious lines in this song. And he said it like it was a bar. And if you're stupid, you've got nothing going on up here, you probably were like, oh. But once again, I think, okay, say you hate the girls I fuck, but what you really mean? I've been with Black and white and everything that's in between. Nobody was talking about the race of the women that you fuck. Once again, Kendrick Lamar is a Hebrew Israelite hotep and or on the edge of being a Hebrew Israelite hotep. He does not care about the race of the people. He doesn't even really care about the fact that Drake is mixed race. What he cares about is the fact that you're corny. And what he was saying about the women that you fuck, when he said they're not real women, is that they are, and this is misogynistic, so I'm not defending it, but he was saying they are not respectable women. They are not women who wear their hair natural and don't put on makeup and don't like wear tight-fitting clothes or whatever the fuck he was saying on Damn, right? Show me something natural like afros and baby hairs, whatever. Obtuse. It's giving obtuse lines like this. You the Black Messiah wifing up a mixed queen and hit vanilla cream to help out with your self-esteem. On some Bobby shit, I want to know what Whitney need. All that puppy love was over in y'all late teens. So then the next best thing that he can say is that Kendrick's relationship is not working out. Bobby and Whitney famously had a very tumultuous relationship. Bobby also famously, I think, was shorter than Whitney. Bobby, that's Bobby Brown and Whitney Houston. I think what he's insinuating is that Kendrick only likes light-skinned and or white passing women, and so he's doing all this like rah blackness thing, but like the actual things that he is attracted to do not match with that. Meanwhile, Drake is saying, but I will fuck any woman. And love and care are two different things, but we don't have time to get into that. It's kind of funny to me that in the same song where someone is talking about fake tea and being homophobic, the best tea that they can come up with is that somebody's like central interpersonal relationship is not what it seems on the outside. Which, I mean, most people's aren't, but you know, whatever. Okay, so I heard that one of them kids might be Dave Free. Don't make it Dave Freeze. Because if your GM is your BM secret BD, then this is all making plenty fucking sense to me. A, let that shorty breathe. Shake that ass, bitch. Hands on your knees. Hands on your knees, hands on your knees. Shake that ass for Drake, now shake that ass for Free. Well, not that kind of free. I'm talking about Dave. You didn't have to explain it. We were having so much fun. You were making this up, and then you said, shake that ass for Drake, shake that ass for Free. And I was like, ooh, wait, maybe I will shake my ass. And then he had to explain it. He thinks the listeners are stupid. Some of them are, but not all of them. And the ones who are could have someone explain it to them. In this, he's claiming that one of Kendrick's kids is actually Dave Free's child. And the verse is very good, in my opinion. The verse is well written. He rapped it well. It could have been one of his ghostwriters who wrote it, but we don't know, you know, allegedly. The thing that makes me lose it is that ending where he feels the need to continue to explain, to like over-explain himself. He always takes it a step too far. Let there be some ambiguity, Aubrey. K-Dot shit is only hidden hard when Baby Keem put his pen to it. Baby Keem is Kendrick Lamar's cousin who does some like writing with him and has made music with him. This line pissed me off to no end, and I will talk about it in length in our conclusions. But where is your uncle at? Because I want to talk to the man of the house. So Kendrick Lamar has a song on Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers called Auntie Lessons, where he is talking, oh, I just realized that is a play on Daddy Lesson. I'm being slow. Where he's talking about the fact that one of his family members transitioned from female to male, and that there are different transgender and gay people in his family, and he's breaking down his struggle to work through his own personal transphobia, and he's like tongue-in-cheek being a little transphobic in the song. This is being actually transphobic. Where's your uncle at? Because I want to talk to the man of the house. Almost saying, haha, you got a trans in the family. And he's the man of the house, not you. Because you're short and not masculine. The way that this woman is, it's a woman, right? Trans? LGBT? Skittles? This is so evil of him. And it was evil of Jermaine Cole when he was also talking about transmasculine people. I never see transmasculine people get smoke, especially like particularly from Black people. Like I feel like they have all the smoke for transfeminine people, but not transmasculine people. But apparently the tide has turned, and they said we hate all of you, and I hate that for all of us. And then this is when we start to get into the biggest thing, the biggest claim that Drake is making. When you put your hands on your girl, is it self-defense because she's bigger than you? You're back against the curb. Okay, so that doesn't matter, because he claims that like Kendrick is looking for dirt on him, whatever. Why did you move to New York? Is it because you live in that bachelor life? Proposed in 2015 but don't want to make her your actual wife. I guess this wedding ain't happening, right? Because we know the girls that you actually like. They hired a crisis management team to clean up the fact that you beat on your queen. So the main claim that Drake is making is that Kendrick is or was physically abusive to his fiance and partner of several years, Whitney Alford. This is something that is difficult because it is something that has come up in the past, where I think in 2014, right around, there's been rumblings, right, about this. I think in 2014 there was this whole thing. He like went on I think The Breakfast Club and was talking about how a different incident where he had been accused of battery by a woman and said no, that didn't happen. And now Drake is claiming that he was physically abused by his partner. This is an incredibly serious allegation, the same way that like the allegations that Kendrick is making about Drake being a pedophile are incredibly serious. And it's the most vulnerable people in our communities who end up being collateral damage to these like men, these rich and powerful men who are angry at one another. Because I'm sure that this woman didn't want her life aired out like this. If she had, she would have told us. She would have written something about it. She would have made a statement or whatever. Like, if she wanted us to know, the public at large, maybe people in her life know, friends, family, relationships, but if she wanted the public at large to know, she would have put that out there. I think most people don't want the public at large to know about stuff like this. And so him taking that and using it almost as not almost, like literally as a bar in a rap song, horrible. Same way I think that Kendrick taking Drake being a alleged pedophile and using that as a bar in a rap song, horrible, because these are actual serious things. Like, we're entering Law and Order SVU territory. Where is Olivia Benson? Okay, where is Olivia Benson? Is it entirely outside of the realm of possibility that this, like, once again, Hotep adjacent, Black Israelite adjacent man would be physically abused towards a partner? No, because it's not out of the realm of possibility that any man would be physically abused towards a partner. But I take everything with a grain of salt that I am not hearing directly from the mouth of a spokesperson for a victim or a victim themselves. And Drake is not saying this from the goodness of his heart, because if he wanted to put out rap disses against Kendrick Lamar and like all the other people who'd said something about him, but not like put a vulnerable woman's story out there himself and like take ownership over doing that, he could have put out songs without this information and then leaked the story to the press. Because people do that all the time. People always leak stories to the press. They say like a credible source says this, whatever, there's video, there's pictures, whatever it is. However much money he would have had to have spent to do that, but putting it in a rap song is flip in a way that is just so almost, it's like, it's dystopian that we're finding out that like the only person who's ever won the Pulitzer Prize for a genre of music outside of classical or jazz is potentially an. But it's crazy that this is stuff that's coming up in a rap beef and not like something that's being treated very seriously, being investigated. That she's not being offered help to get out of that type of a situation. If I was Whitney, if I was Kendrick's partner or ex-partner, whatever it is, I would be like, if you don't leave me the fuck alone, keep my name out of your mouth, because what do I have to do with this? You don't like him. You're mad at him. Why am I in it? But that's me. And also him claiming that Kendrick is like living alone in New York. I'm pretty sure that Kendrick bought the penthouse that Drake is talking about in like 2014 when he was still with Whitney, and she's been seen there. Okay, and I also, the cherry on top of this for me personally is that in the same song where he is claiming that somebody beat their partner and that is an egregious offense, he gives a shout out to Chris Brown. You know who even banged a set out there is CB. Chris Brown didn't just Anna. We don't have time to go on a side quest about all of the alleged actions of Chris Brown, but know that it is domestic of several partners, stalking, allegations, regular allegations, not even just of partners, but just like of random women who are around him, allegations of men. Like, there's a lot of stuff out there about him that people have said and claimed about him and the things that he has done, and we know what he did to Rihanna. And on the same song where he's claiming that it's horrible that Kendrick Lamar is doing this thing and that like he should be so embarrassed that he's selling this fantasy of one thing when in reality it's something else, you're shouting out Chris Brown. That's the level of cognitive dissonance you have to do that seriously is mind-boggling. He also claims on one of the lines in here that, like, Kendrick is a hypocrite for wanting J. Cole to stay out of the beef when, like, maybe he just actually likes J. Cole, you know, and he, like, doesn't like you. Like, Kendrick made it very clear on Euphoria that he hates you. He said, I hate you. I hate just you. He's also a Gemini, so he might change his mind in like 2 weeks. But, like, it's not just that Drake's mom is white. It's that his mom is white, and it's the way that he moves through the world, the way that he behaves. But that's just a little taste of what we will discuss when we get to Meet the Grams. So after Family Matters, we get Meet the Grams by Kendrick Lamar, which has the two iconic happenings going on, right? One, that it was released literally 20 minutes after Family Matters came out, and two, the opening line. The Grams opens with the banger bar. Dear Adonis, I'm sorry that man is your father. Let me be honest. It takes a man to be a man. Your dad is not responsive. I look at him and wish your grandpa would have wore a condom. I've never seen somebody be dragged like that. Dragged by addressing their child. Crazy. I think the important part to me, because this whole thing is very clear to me, but the important part to me on Meet the Grams is that Kendrick is directly addressing Drake's family, but also that he is directly addressing Adonis and kind of proving that his issue with Drake is not that he is mixed race. It is that he moves through the world like a colonizer. There's a lot of mixed race people who embrace both sides of their cultures. There's a lot of mixed race people who feel more close to one side or the other. And then there's some mixed race people who deal with identity crises by cosplaying as one culture or another, you know. It's not an intrinsic part of their life. It's just something that they are trying to put on after the fact. And whether or not they have a right to do that is not, like, that's not what I'm here to debate. I'm just saying that I think it's interesting. Kendrick is touching on this distinction between what a mixed race person is and who Drake is, right? Because he's addressing Adonis and he's saying, never code switch, whether right or wrong, you're a black man. Even if it don't benefit your goals, do some push-ups, get some discipline. He's saying basically that Adonis has the choice to be black because he has black in him. Adonis is lighter skinned and whiter than Drake, but Kendrick is implying that if Adonis chooses to be a black man, like his father didn't, that Kendrick can give him guidance and lead him through that process. Because there is a way to actually be authentic in that, and there's also a way to be very culture vulture-y. I think it's also important to note in this song, the mother gets it very light. You know, Dear Sandra, it's like 5 lines. Dear Sandra, 4 lines. That's it. Because fair, you know, you're not gonna go after a woman like that the way that Drake went after the mother of Kendrick's children. I mean, he could have written an entire verse on this song to Sophie and addressed Drake's baby mom. He didn't do that. He addressed the men in the situation and also was very gentle towards the little girl in the situation. Is there misogyny baked into this as well? Probably somewhere, but again, too much to unpack. We'd be here for the rest of my life. He says to Drake's father, Dear Dennis, you gave birth to a master manipulator. Even using you to prove who he is a huge favor. I think you should ask for more paper and more paper and more paper. Kendrick is saying you are allowing yourself to be paraded around by your child as proof of his credibility as a black man. If you're going to do that, if you're going to be the clown in this circus, you better be getting paid what you're worth. Fair, you know, union rights, compensation for all. I'm blaming you for all his gambling addictions, psychopath intuition. The man that liked to play victim. You raised a horrible fucking person. The nerve of you, Dennis. Sandra, sit down. What I'm about to say is heavy. Your son is a sick man with sick thoughts. I think like him and Weinstein should get fucked up in a cell for the rest of their life. He hates black women, hypersexualism with kinks of a nympho fetish, grew facial hair because he understood being a beard just fit him better. I think he's saying a lot more about Drake than just that he's a pedophile. Very similarly to Diddy, the allegations against, there's predators, and I say this as a 20-year veteran of the Special Victims Unit of New York City. Okay, I've been watching that show my entire fucking life. There are some predators out there who are omnivorous in the way that they go after people. They don't just care, they don't just want to hurt children or men or women or elderly people. They want to hurt everyone. They want to exercise their power and use it as a bludgeon against everyone. And so he's taking him through, like, the thing about Harvey Weinstein wasn't that he was a pedophile. It was that he was wanting to victimize people. Sometimes those people were a lot younger than him. Sometimes those people were around his same age. But it was just that, like, that's the thing about SA, that it's not about hate or misogyny or hating people. It's about power. So that's what every predatory action is about. It's about exercising power against people and being able to do that because, as he says, you have a psychopath intuition. So he's saying that he's omnivorous in the way that he does this. He'll do it to children, he'll do it to women, he might even do it to men. I've heard similar claims made about Diddy. And where is he? Somewhere in Bali with Russell Simmons, probably. Something that I've always struggled with about Drake as an artist, but also as, like, a person in my parasocial relationship with him that I've had for the past 22 years of my life. He has always had the energy of the Black woman is not, like, an object of love. Like, when I was growing up, he seemed sexually obsessed with Nicki Minaj. He seemed obsessed with Rihanna. He seemed obsessed with Serena Williams. He's still obsessed with Rihanna and Serena Williams. And he'll still diss their husbands and their partners and baby fathers. Why? Because he has a feeling of ownership over them. We've never seen him do this stuff with he says that he's, like, fucked people of all races, whatever. We've never seen him do this stuff with people of other races. We've only seen him do this stuff with Black women. We've also never seen him out with, or personally, I've never seen him out romantically claiming somebody who is not Black. And I think that is, in a way, because of this hypersexual Black women, but also this idea that being with a Black woman solidifies his credibility. However, he can't get them to stay in something that he can commit to. You know, when you see people as pawns in a game and not as people to have relationships with, then it's hard to have relationships with them. So that line particularly hit me. Grew facial hair because he understood being a beard just fit him better. Once again, we're tiptoeing on that, we're tap dancing right on that line of homophobia. It could be that Drake is a beard, or he is in loveless romantic relationships with women because he wants to cover up what his real sexuality is. It also could be that he is doing that double entendre of he grew a beard because he is a beard for the sex in his camp. He got offenders on Hovio that he keep on a monthly allowance. A child should never be compromised, and he keeping his child around them. Can you imagine somebody, like, letting their small girl child run around in a swimsuit with Robert Kelly in the same room? Now, this is a convicted person. This is somebody who's in prison for the things that he did. But, like, you are allowing your child to be around people who, they might have these allegations against them, but, like, you would know, wouldn't you? Because they're your shooters. They're the people on your crew. So why would you... it's disgusting. I've been in this industry 12 years. I'm gonna tell y'all one little secret. It's some weird shit going on. Some of these artists be here to police it. They be streamlining victims all inside of their home and calling them tender, then leak videos of themselves to further push their agendas. So this is me on my high horse. If you know this stuff, air it out. Tell the shit. Tell the secrets. If I am ever at any kind of level of notoriety, fame, recognition, whatever, don't do sick shit near me, because I don't give a fuck about I don't give a fuck about myself. I don't give a fuck about anything. I will tell. I will tell. I'll tell. Because the people need to know. Like, that's crazy. And the idea that somebody would be like, and this is like the thing with DJ. This has been happening with DJ Academics. This is happening with Drake. This is happening with Kendrick. These people being like, well, if I go down, I'm taking everyone down with me. Take them down anyway. You can live a life knowing some of this disgusting, heinous shit, seeing some of this shit, and you don't say it out loud. I understand if it's a case of like you don't have verifiable proof, so you don't want your name on it so that you don't get like sued or whatever. Leak it. Use a pseudonym. Do some, like, it's just, it's not, blow the whistle. It's so, I do truly believe, and this is me putting my little tinfoil hat on, that Kendrick Lamar either was in the room when something was happening, saw something, or heard something from a credible source about Drake being a predator. And that's why he's going so hard on this. Because the conviction with which he says a lot of this stuff, it's not giving like rumor mill or I read about this on Twitter. These people used to be friends. They were on tour together. He knows something, I think. I believe, in my opinion, he knows something. And if it's not verifiable, then this might be his only way of expressing it. But it's just like, it's so, I find it really frustrating. He said, hey, LeBron, keep the family away. Hey, Curry, keep the family away. These are people who have children, young girl children, by the way, famously young girl children, who are hanging out and like spend time with and are friends with, maybe in passing, maybe close to Drake. One of Drake's associates was arrested for allegedly running a sex trafficking ring. Why would you have your children around someone like that? Being famous is crazy. It really is. So then he gets into the whole thing about like, dear baby girl. I don't know that this is a literal child that he's talking about, you know, because in the Heart Part 6, he's like, Drake is like making fun of him for falling for it. I assumed the entire time that it was a metaphor for any children that Drake might have victimized or just women that he might have done wrong. Then the final verse, dear Aubrey, I know you probably thinking I wanted to crash your party, but truthfully, I don't have a hate and bone in my body. That's a damn lie coming out of the mouth of a Gemini. There's supposed to be a good exhibition within the game, but you fucked up the moment you called out my family's name. Why you had to stoop so low to discredit some decent people? Guess integrity is lost when the metaphors doesn't reach you. I truly believe that there was a lot of this stuff that went right over this man's head. I do believe that there was a lot that Kendrick Lamar said that went right over Drake's head, because even in the response, like I mentioned when I was talking about Family Matters, he's saying like, why would you tell J. Cole to stay out of it when we're both biracial? It's like, you don't get it. J. Cole is biracial and he's black. You're biracial and that's it. And that's what the difference is. Like, that's what the distinction is. Those are different things for people like Kendrick Lamar, and honestly for most Black people. J. Cole is also American and was born and raised in Black American culture. Drake, regardless of where his father is from, is Canadian and was born and raised in a Jewish community in Canada. There are some things that he's just not going to know because that was not his context. I remember I was talking to my friend on the phone a few days ago, and she told, hi Mary, if you're watching this, she said that she had seen Beyonce perform Deja Vu at the BET Awards for the first time this year. She was born in Ethiopia, grew up in Ethiopia and London. So I wouldn't expect her to have that as like a point of reference for anything. Meanwhile, I have seen that video once a year, every year, since I watched it live on the BET Awards. But my brothers who grew up in Mozambique would not probably have the same experience. They would also probably be seeing it for the first time. Black American, as like global as the Black diaspora is, Black American culture is a very specific, historically and culturally specific entity that you can't just claim because you have the same skin tone. And that's why it always looks and feels like a minstrel show. He literally put minstrel makeup on. Like, it feels like a minstrel show when people do this stuff because we know what is and is not a part of the culture. It's kind of like when you are learning a new language, you're never going to have the same level of dexterity with the language as a native is, because you didn't grow up in it. You don't know all the little things that make it what it is. Like if I'm speaking French and I say, je m'appelle, French people don't say, they say, je m'appelle, like, so me saying, it's not even like if I'm in England and I'm like, hey, can I have a English people don't say they say like it's stuff like that that's minute and specific that shows that this is not yours. And those are the things that I feel like really went over Drake's head in 616 in LA and Euphoria. He's saying, well, why aren't you also involving J. Cole in this? Because J. Cole is not a culture vulture and you are. So he's saying Drake does not have integrity, right? He's saying that Drake is involving people who didn't need to. He's like, this is between you and me. You're talking about the Weeknd's manager. You're talking about my wife. You're talking about my kids. Like, and let's not forget that Drake is the one who brought up Kendrick's fiance, ex-fiance, partner. He's the one who brought up Whitney. And I like to understand because your house was never a home. 37, but you showing up as a 7-year-old. Another thing that is a little teetering on problematic, like Kendrick grew up in a 2-parent Black household. Meanwhile, Drake grew up with his single mother and his father who left when he was 5 years old. But like the life that Drake is trying to cosplay is the life that Kendrick actually grew up in. He grew up on Section 8 housing. He grew up in Compton. He grew up around people who were in gangs. He grew up around danger and guns. And people are so enamored with this boys in the hood, whatever aesthetic experience. But they didn't actually go through the struggle that would then turn an artist growing up in that environment into the type of person who would win a Pulitzer Prize. And so Drake is like desperate to be like, well, I'm hard too, and I was in gangs too, and I know people with guns too. When it's like, no, you're not. Had your bat mitzvah at the community center in downtown Toronto. You were on Degrassi when you were 13 years old. Like, you were getting TV checks. You're not hard, and that's okay. Choosing a life of struggle for street cred is like one of the most annoying things that you could do, in my opinion. Therapy's a lovely start, but I suggest some ayahuasca. Strip the ego from the bottom. He said the problems that you have cannot be fixed with therapy alone. You need psychedelics. You need to no longer exist as a sentient human being and then rebuild yourself from the base, because whatever the fuck it is that you're doing right now, it's not working and don't nobody like it. This stuff is so mean, but it's also coming from such a loving place. Like, I see myself in him. I understand exactly what he's saying. He's like, I'm not even trying to be mean. I'm not even trying to read you. I'm literally just telling the truth about your life and who you are as a person. And hopefully from this you will get something other than that I'm a hater. Hopefully you'll actually listen and do some of this stuff. But the likelihood of that is very low. So, you know, may as well joke, may as well laugh while we do it, you know. I try to empathize with you because I know you ain't been through nothing. Crave entitlement, but want to be liked so bad. It's puzzling. I mean, we already talked about that when we were discussing like the life that Kendrick lived versus the life that Drake lived. No dominance. Let's recap moments when you didn't fit in. No secret handshakes with your friend. No culture cachet to bin. Just disrespecting your mother. It's giving white mom. Like, you're screaming at your mom. No culture cachet to binge. Just disrespecting your mother. Like, you weren't growing up listening to the shit that I was listening to, watching the TV shows that I was watching, having the cultural life experience I was having. You're being mean to your mom because your mom's white and that's your culture. Identity's on the fence. Don't know which family will love you. The skin you living in is compromised in personas. Can't channel your masculine even when standing next to a woman. Getting into some of the gender essentialism stuff. You a body shamer. You gonna hide them baby mamas, ain't ya? You embarrassed of them. That's not right. That ain't how mama raised us. His mother was a single mother. So the idea of him being ashamed of the single mothers that he is creating by fucking women raw, incredibly hypocritical, but you know. Take that mask off. I want to see what's under them achievements. Why believe you? You never gave us nothing to believe in. So this is him doubling down on like, you make music, I make music that electrify me, you make music that pacify them. Because you lied about religious views. You lied about your surgery. You lied about your accent. All in your past tense, all is perjury. You lied about your ghostwriters. You lied about your crew members. They all pussy. You lied on them. I know they all got you in them. You lied about your son. You lied about your daughter, huh? You lied about them other kids that's out there hoping that you come. You lied about the only artist that can offer you some help. Fuck a rap battle. This is a lifelong battle with yourself. From top to tail. From starting with Dear Adonis, I'm sorry that that man is your father, to ending with fuck a rap battle. This is a lifelong battle with yourself. The only answer might be for Drake to kill himself in front of Kendrick Lamar and completely alter the entire course of his life. That's the only way he can win. Because this coming out so soon after Family Matters, I was like, well, it's over now. We're done. It's over. But unfortunately, we weren't. Saw that the cover was allegedly like a flat lay of a bunch of Drake's stuff. His like Ozempic prescription, his sleeping pills, his Maybach glove, like whatever dispatches from inside the OVO compound. And I said, is this for me to know? Why do I have this information? The messiness in me said, yes! But the darkness in me said, oh, no. That's not good. And then, after dropping Meet the Grams, Kendrick had the audacity to drop Not Like Us, an ass-shaking anthem for all the girls who said, but as Drake said, is always rapping like he's trying to free the slaves, as though that's a bad thing. Did you not want the slaves to be free? It's giving very that mixed guy from the Girl King. That, you know, that mixed Brazilian guy who shows up? He's like with the white Portuguese man buying and selling slaves. Yeah. That's what it's giving. Almost like as a rebuttal that Kendrick's rap is like too conscious and too like deep, creates too much deep thinking, he drops Not Like Us. And not only on Not Like Us is he being belligerent and disrespectful, he's also giving us complicated and deep like metaphor, simile, and double entendre. And you can shake your ass to it. It literally feels like a song that was produced by the writing team from the Boondocks for an episode on the Boondocks. Every time I listen to that fucking song, I feel like I am in the Boondocks. As a response to Not Like Us, let's get to the best song in this entire beef, Not Like Us by Kendrick Lamar. A beautiful response to all of the Drake fans who say Kendrick doesn't put out any good music, he doesn't put out anything that I can dance to, he just makes music that is trying to get the slaves freed. Well, he said, here's something that you can shake your ass to and also laugh to as a nice little cherry on top. And let's just see, such a smart song, but also such a fun song. You know, let's just get right into it. The industry can hate me, fuck them all, and they mama. How many ops you really got? I mean, it's too many options. I'm finna pass on this body, I'm John Stockton. I'm finna pass on this body, I'm John Stockton. John Stockton played basketball. One of his teammates, who he often had to pass to because of his position, I don't know anything about basketball, but I know about pedophiles who are famous, was Karl Malone, a man who famously got a 13-year-old girl pregnant when he was an adult man. When I say an adult man, I don't mean like 18, had just turned 18 the day before. No, like 26 years old. So John Stockton and Karl Malone played on the same team, and he's saying, I'm finna pass on this body, I'm John Stockton. Chestnut checkers. Okay. Beat your ass and hide the Bible if God watching. That's just hilarious. That's just funny. Say Drake, I heard you like him young. You better not ever go to cell block 1. To any bitch that talk to him and they in love, just make sure you hide your little sister from him. The famous thing in the United States, if you are in prison, you're more likely to be abused by other prisoners. We do have a big problem with SA in prisons that is easily preventable and that people often play on when talking about like what will happen to predators when they go to prison, which I personally find disgusting. But yeah, that's what that line is about. They tell me Chubb's the only one that gets your hand-me-downs. Chubbs is a member of OVO, and he's allegedly like getting his hand-me-downs of like women who Drake has had sex with get like passed over to Chubbs. This is like such a disgusting world that I have dipped my toe in. And Party at the Party, playing with his nose now. Party next door, who is also on OVO, allegedly being addicted to sniffers, drugs that you put up your nose. And Baca got a weird case. Why is he around? So he was arrested in 2014 for allegedly forcing a young woman into prostitution, and there have been rumors about him being a pimp, selling people, just doing like generally very horrible stuff. So he's saying, why are you around this person if you know that he's a bad person? I don't care what he does for you. Like, what are you doing? Okay, certified lover boy, certified what? It's just so funny. Why you oh no. Why you trolling like a bitch? Ain't you tired? Trying to strike a chord, and it's probably A minor. And we will be spending the rest of the summer shaking ass to this song about a man who's allegedly. Okay, one of my favorite lines, from Alondra down to Central, better not speak on Serena. Drake has been obsessed with Serena Williams since they had a situationship in 2015, and then he disrespected her, and she had the audacity to, I don't know, go off and marry someone who was actually nice to her. Like, he's been very weird about Serena Williams for years, and yeah, better not speak on Serena, period. Serena's from where? Compton. Like Kendrick, period. Shut up. Stop talking about women that you're not sleeping with anymore. Stop talking about women who you have not seen naked in this decade. Like, it's just weird. It's very weird. Okay, the chorus is they not like us, which is like him saying that Drake's friends are weird. They're fuckers, allegedly. Not like us. I don't like it. But also like this thing about him being confused about his race and not being like them, but also potentially not like us, as in, you know. What I want to focus on mainly is the third verse, where Kendrick gets cerebral, because that is, of course, the part that I'm interested in. Once upon a time, all of us was in chains. Homie still doubled down, calling us some slaves. Atlanta was the Mecca, building railroads and trains. Drake has a line from one of his songs released on his latest album called Slime You Out, where he says, whipped and chained you like American slaves. And then on Family Matters, he says, always rapping like you trying to free the slaves. So when Kendrick is saying this, once upon a time, all of us was in chains, homie still doubled down, calling us some slaves. Again, like, is your father not a black man from America? You clearly don't feel a connection to that legacy in the way some other blacks do. Because my father, a man who was born and raised in Mozambique, in the south of Africa, used to watch documentaries about American slavery on the History Channel and sob, cry, because he could not believe the indignity. And you're talking about slavery like in bars and songs like it's something cute and fun. Anyway, Atlanta was a Mecca, building railroads and trains. Bear with me for a second, because he knows that the girls are going to stop listening because he's talking about history and nobody cares about that shit. I care. I'm still listening. The settlers was using town folk to make them richer. So both during and after slavery, African American enslaved labor, but then wage labor, and also enslaved labor through prison, was used to build and maintain railroads in the South of America. The South of the United States of America. Atlanta was the end point of. So Atlanta is like, really, for most of the 19th and 20th century and early 20th century, well, the first quarter of the 20th century, the last big city on the East Coast. If you're looking at the coast, Atlanta is the last big city, because Florida was not super developed until the last, like, I want to say 100 years, really. So like the 1920s is when you start to see people being interested in Northern Florida, the Panhandle, Orlando, Miami, stuff like that. So Atlanta is the last big city, right? The settlers was using townfolk to make them richer. So both white people enslaving African American people, using their forced labor to make themselves richer through these railroad lines and like other economic activity in Atlanta, as well as northern settlers, carpetbaggers from Boston and Maryland, and I'm in Maryland, and Pennsylvania, all of these people, they're called carpetbaggers because they literally carried carpet bags from the northern United States down to Atlanta. And because they were white, had more access to power and more privilege, and thus were able to rise ranks faster, and were then taking over the reins of subjugating the Black population in the South and establishing themselves in this economic core. So he's comparing Drake, a northerner, coming down to Atlanta and using the town folk to make himself richer. Fast forward 2024, you got the same agenda. You run to Atlanta when you need a check balance. So he's saying that Drake is going to Atlanta to make more money and also to like increase his street cred. Let me break it down for you. This is the real challenge. You called Future when you didn't see the club. So he's saying that Drake started his friendship with Future because he wanted to be able to get into Black clubs and he wasn't able to do that on his own. Fair. This is a motherfucker from a Canadian teen drama. There's an episode of Degrassi where he is dealing with erectile dysfunction as a 17-year-old boy. He ends up with a woman with white locks. Like, the shit he was doing on that show was crazy. So he, like I said at the beginning, his whole thing, he was kind of a punching bag in the rap industry when he started because of where he had come from. So he's saying that the Future kind of opened a door to allow him to get into the club. Lil Baby helped you get your lingo up. 21 gave you false street cred. Thug made you feel like you was slime in your head. So a member of Young Thug's collection of enterprising Black men, what did he call it in court, are led by a rap performer named Young Thug. Thug standing for truly humble under God. So he's basically saying he's making him feel, Young Thug is making Drake feel like he's a part of the Young Slime group. Then he says, Quavo said you can be from the north side. So the north side, like all the Migos are from like kind of just outside, or they were born and raised like just outside of Atlanta. I think like the northern part of Atlanta. So it's like plausible deniability. You're not exactly from Atlanta. Like I'm from Atlanta because I'm from like the Atlanta metropolitan area, but like technically it's like claiming north side when technically you're from just outside of Atlanta, not like Atlanta proper. And then 2 Chainz said you good, but he lied, which is hilarious because it's just that simple. 2 Chainz said you good, but he lied. You run to Atlanta when you need a few dollars. No, you not a colleague. You a fucking colonizer. So he's doing what colonizers do, which is ingratiating himself into this culture that he is going to leech of all of its resources to enrich himself and then move on to the next thing. We talked about this. He did this in Houston. He did this in Los Angeles. He did this in Miami when he was BFFs with Rick Ross. He did this in London with all the fucking like grime rappers. He's done this in the Caribbean. He's gonna do it in West Africa next. Like this is just kind of like what he does. And it's a joke that Drake is the Mr. Worldwide of the rap community, that he has like an accent for every era that he's going through. And he also like, people also talk about like how his flow changes depending on like who he's close to, who he's listening to at the time. Like when the Control verse came out in 2013 or 2011, his flow sounded a lot like Big Sean's. There's all these people who people claim he cribbed his flow from, and I'm tired, so I cannot remember exactly right now, but he's a shapeshifter in the way that colonizers often have to be in order to survive and not be eaten alive by the locals that they are colonizing. The family matter and the truth of the matter. It was God's plan to show y'all the liar. And then at the end, he's just like, he's literally making fun of him and the way that Drake will like kind of shoehorn these like dance challenges into his music. He's saying like, then say OV ho, then step this way, step that way, then step this way, step that way. It's not a dance, it's not a challenge, but it could go viral on TikTok, you know. Similar way that like the Tootsie slide, that's not a challenge, but it could go viral on TikTok because it is ripe for the taking. This is, in my opinion, the most fun song that came out of this entire beef. And I listen to it driving every day. In fact, I need to stream it this week because it was just beaten on the Billboard Hot 100 by Morgan Wallen. No. Drake soon after drops The Heart Part 6. It was really giving to me that it felt like he was waiting for Kendrick to be done so that he could get the final say, he could get the final word, whatever. I don't exactly know what Drake was trying to do on The Heart Part 6, but we're gonna talk about it. He samples Aretha Franklin at the beginning of this song because he too knows about Black singers from the 1960s, although his is one who arguably had a huge pop crossover. Meanwhile, the song that Kendrick Lamar sampled, they're giving Cleaning the House on Sunday. But once again, he don't know nothing about that. Don't know nothing about that. He starts the song by claiming that like all the information that Kendrick is putting out in his songs is false and coming from inside of the camp. I am a war general, seasoned in preparation. My jacket is covered in medals, honor, and dedication. You waited for this moment, overcome with desperation. We plotted for a week, then we fed you the information. A daughter that's 11 years old, I bet he takes it. We thought about giving a fake name or a destination, but you so thirsty, you not concerned with investigation. Said you in that Venice studio, it's a celebration. You gotta learn to fact check things and be less impatient. Your fans are rejoicing thinking this is my expiration. Even the picture you use, the jokes, the medication, the Maybach glove, the drug he used is less inflation. Master manipulator, you bit on the speculation. You dumb and reactive. I'm petty with dedication. Maybe it's true that he leaked all this information. Regardless, did you also leak the information about you having psychiatric problems and an identity crisis? Because that was all true, and we could still talk about that. In fact, it's imperative to me that you do talk about that because, sir, get some help. But then he's also like kind of proving that he's a master manipulator by saying that he plotted for a week to manipulate. And he's like, yeah, I'm a master manipulator. Haha, I gotcha. Okay. He says, why isn't Whitney denying all of the allegations? Why is she following Dave Free and not Mr. Morale? Have we ever heard this woman speak? Has anyone ever heard this woman speak? If you have, let me know in the comments down below. Oh, the baby is upset. He goes into, after he's done talking about how everything was a scam and a plant, and how Kendrick's girlfriend doesn't like him anymore, whatever. Speaking of anything with a child, let's get to that now. This Epstein angle was the shit I expected. We're gonna go down a little bit. My mom came over today and I was like, mother, wait a second. That's the one record where you going down a little bit again. Touch My Body, my Mariah Carey play. You probably start reflecting. So someone accuses you of being a pedophile, and your response to that is to make fun of them for maybe having in their life. That's how you decided that you were going to beat the allegations? It's by saying, LOL, you did. Touch My Body by Mariah Carey. I'm really serious when I say prison. I'm really serious when I say prison. Let's not even discount the fact that that song isn't even about Kendrick Lamar getting molested. It's about his mother getting molested and then projecting onto him that he must also be getting molested because of the trauma that she went through. So like, talk about lacking literacy skills, or even if he knew what it was really about and he just wanted to make the joke that badly, or like make the dig that badly, it's not funny and it's not interesting and it's not cool and it's not the jab that you think it is. Like, motherfuckers don't watch Law & Order SVU the way that I watch Law & Order SVU, okay? Y'all are watching it for fun. I'm watching it and like actually empathizing with the on that show. Not a lot of people can relate, apparently. He's claiming that Kendrick is buying views, bots, likes, streams. Okay. And then he says, if you still bumping R. Kelly, you could thank the savior. That's reference to how Kendrick calls himself like the Black Messiah or whatever. Said, if they deleted his music, then your music is going too. A hypocrite. Once again, I think that maybe Kendrick, or maybe Drake went to the Nicki Minaj school of sourcing rap diss track bars from Twitter, because this is a tweet that I saw and now it's in this song, like as one of the bookends of this beef. This is a misreported comment made by the owner of Kendrick's former label, Top Dog Entertainment. I won't get into it too much, but he was basically saying, like, Spotify had released this policy in 2018 saying that, like, people who do bad things will take their music off the platform. A lot of people were critical of it, and I think the owner of Top Dog Records was one of them. He was like, no, don't take R. Kelly's music off of Spotify. We have to separate the art from the artist, whatever. People reported it as being said by Kendrick because at the time, and I think even at the time, Kendrick was the biggest artist on Top Dog Entertainment. So he never said that he would have his music removed from Spotify if they went forward with the policy. That being said, he has worked with and or promoted different abusive artists in the past, but he also has an analysis or an understanding of them, I guess, as like people. You can take and do with that what you will, how you feel about that, how you feel about him like interpolating Kodak Black's music into his songs, or like posting about Triple X Tentacion, one of whom is a convicted rapist who was pardoned by another convicted rapist, and the other who is an admitted domestic abuser who just happened to die before his time. Whatever you feel about that, he does seem to believe that like there's more complexity to people than just the worst things that they do, which again is consistent with him, Kendrick, I mean, putting out all these songs talking about how Drake is a pedophile, but also being like, seriously, dude, like, get some help, like, you need it. If whether you agree or not, I've never been with no one underage, but now I understand why the angle that you really mess with. Just for clarity, I feel disgusted. I'm too respected. If I was fucking young girls, I promise I'd have been arrested. I'm way too famous for this shit you just suggested. It's just, okay, we'll continue. See on a sex offender registry, because that's your middle name, not your first name. If I did it, then why aren't I in jail? Is such like, what are you even talking about? What are you talking about? So many people who do it, who we know do it, who have admitted to doing it, never end up in jail. So what are you talking about? He needed to send the ghostwriters back with this one. Like, he needed to look them in their face and be like, this is all you came up with? Seriously? You expect me to put this out as though I won something? Seriously? But the Hard Part 6 is a very weak ending to what was almost 2 weeks of just like back and forth. Like, it was like watching Challengers, okay? Challengers came out at a perfect time because those motherfuckers were hitting balls at one another. Like, what were their names? Like Art and Patrick and Challengers, just like just back and forth. And then we ended it on the Heart Part 6, which is not a good song. At this point in the beef, Drake and Kendrick Lamar have essentially produced a collab album. They have put out a collaborative EP full of music about how much they fucking hate each other. But people can fall on one side or another of who won, whose songs were the best, and whose claims that they made in the music were the strongest. Before we get to a summary of the claims made and who I think won, we first have to take a Metro Boomin side quest. Metro Boomin absolutely does want some more. He said he was watching this beef from the sidelines, like, hit him again, do it again. Like, he was cheering. It was fun to watch him watch this whole thing go down. So we can't forget that the whole like hot part of this beef was reignited because Metro Boomin and Future gave Kendrick the platform upon which to air out his pure, unbridled hatred of Aubrey Graham. And I feel that so much. I think we as a people do not accept hate enough, you know? If you have hate in your heart, if you dislike someone, if you don't fuck with someone, you should go with that. You should lean into that. We always want to be peace, love, rainbows, unicorns, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes you just hate a bitch. And that's okay. Future and Drake, as I mentioned before, allegedly fell off because Drake tried to fuck one of Future's girls. Once again, I'm not going to dive deep into this because the shit is stupid anyway, and like the reason that men have these large scale falling outs with one another, like somebody who you used to call your brother, who you used to fuck with heavy, and then you never speak to them again, is because they like took your Legos, or they like looked at you sideways while you were peeing and you thought that that shit was gay. Like, it's not, for me at least, it's not anything that feels rooted in reality and, like, true disrespect. But that all being said, Future and Drake do not like each other anymore, and Future and Metro Boomin are incredibly close. So, Metro Boomin, at some point in the middle of last week, made the beat BBL Drizzy based off of this, I think, TikTok comedian or this like online comedian's like sketch of this song called BBL Drizzy, and he offered $10,000 to whoever made the best verse, and $10,000 and a free beat to whoever produced the best verse using the beat, and then a free beat to the runner-up. He really does not fuck with that man, and I think this is in part because of the way that Drake has run up and through Atlanta trying to use the people there to legitimize himself as a rapper. Kendrick mentions this, I think, on Not Like Us, like trend or towards a certain like popular sound. Suddenly Drake is from that place, right? Like when Houston and Southern rap was really hot in the late 2000s, Drake was all up and through Houston, and he still has ties to that area. Whatever. When so tired. When Migos were coming up and Atlanta rap was getting really hot, you know, you had Migos, you had 21 Savage, you had Lil Yachty, Young Thug, all the people that Kendrick mentioned in the verse. When Atlanta was really coming up and really getting hot as the hub of rap, suddenly Drake is spending all this time in Atlanta. He suddenly has a mixtape with Future in 2015. The Caribbean is like, I'm so tired. People in the United States and in Canada, I'm assuming, are learning more about and getting more into grime. We're having the like crossover of Stormzy and people like Central C and other UK rappers whose names I can't remember right now. And all of a sudden Drake is in London all the time, and he's talking with a fake London accent, and he's releasing songs called Galchester. Like, and what is grime if not like a even more aggressively Caribbean influenced black musical sound that is a cousin of rap, right? And because of the influence from the Caribbean, he's all of a sudden from Jamaica. And then because of the rise of Afrobeats and everybody being so obsessed with Afrobeats, he's putting out Afrobeat songs, and he's taking pictures with Wizkid, and he's in Nigeria, and he's in Ghana, and it's all of this stuff when his roots are in Toronto. And there is music in Toronto, and there is history in Toronto. And even now, St. Louis rap is having its little moment with Sexy Red and Glorilla, and all of a sudden he's spending all this time in St. Louis. St. Louis rap is coming up. All of a sudden he's from St. Louis. Drake is the child of a white woman from Canada and a black man from Memphis, Tennessee. He could dip into the white shit, which he does with his pop. Like, he puts out a lot of pop influenced and pop infused rap music. He could dip into the Memphis shit. But Memphis is not a hot poppin' hub of rap music right now. You don't get any black people street cred from saying that you're from Memphis and you've spent all this time in Memphis and you have all this history in that city, right? You do get that from Jamaica, London, Atlanta, Houston, Miami, all these places that Drake has claimed to be from. Mixed man from Canada. And he puts on all of these other cultures, claims them as their own, fucks over the people who are actually from that culture, and then moves on to the next thing like it doesn't matter. And I can understand Metro Boomin. When is his birthday? Because he's a hater just like me. said he's a hater. This man is a fucking Virgo. Okay, one of the tweets that I included on this slide is about how nice Metro Boomin is. I no longer believe that, knowing that he's a Virgo, but I do 100% believe that he hates Drake's guts. I think he hates that man's guts. I think he went into it with like an open heart and an open mind, and he was like, oh, okay, let's see where this is going. And then Drake fucked him over, and he was like, fuck that man forever, for the rest of eternity. Metro Boomin is a Virgo. He is an earth sign. We hold grudges with the best of them. I would err on the side of trusting and believing him, but that's just me personally. Okay. That all being said, let us get into the claims. I'm actually going to take a break from filming right now because I am bone tired and I need to wash this makeup off my face and take some time to myself. But I am going to get in the bed and go to sleep. And then tomorrow I will resume filming. I will finish up our little PowerPoint. And we will talk about the conclusions that I have come to. We've returned from the board to conclude the video with some final information. So let's talk about the claims that have been made through this beef. First off, Kendrick has said that Drake makes music to pacify people. Drake is an industry plant. Drake is a pedophile. Drake has had extensive plastic surgery, including ab sculpting and a BBL. Drake hates being black. Drake's entourage is full of ops who are secretly plotting against him. And Drake has a secret 11-year-old daughter and potentially other children all over the world. Meanwhile, Drake has alleged that Kendrick beat his fiance, that Kendrick is short, which isn't really a claim. It's more so just like a statement of fact that he really seems to think he like gagged the girls with. That Kendrick is being run by Taylor Swift or just the industry at large, to which I say whoever smelt it dealt it. That one of Kendrick's kids was actually fathered by Dave Free, that Kendrick and his fiance Whitney Alford have broken up, that Kendrick was getting fucked over financially by his former label, Top Dog Entertainment, and that he raps like he's trying to get the slaves freed. And I could make an entire video about why that statement is fucked up, but it's a little too serious for me. I'm in unserious territory right now. So moving on to some alleged claims that I found on Twitter. Allegedly, one of Kendrick's close friends claimed that the original Euphoria was actually 19 minutes long, to which I say release it. Release the Snyder cut of Euphoria. We want it. There's a lot of stuff here. I'll put it up on the screen so you can see it, but like some of the things that I personally thought were notable were that Drake has over 20 companies that no one has heard of. This is a common tactic with alleged sex traffickers to create shell companies that they use to either pay the people that they are supplying the people who are being trafficked from, or to hide the payments that they're getting from other people in exchange for trafficked people, or to pay people off the books, stuff like that, like renting, or to like rent land and building space that they don't have to register under their name because it's under the name of a shell company. Like it's harder to connect to this person. So him having like 20 companies nobody has ever heard of could be a thing that people just do. A lot of people in the entertainment industry just like have a lot of shell companies because they are trying not to pay taxes actively. But it could also be tied to the alleged sex trafficking activity that is going on in the OVO camp. He also said that Drake lied about planting the evidence, which again, I'll see if I can find the Reddit post that I saw this on and I'll put it up on the screen, because like the timing of it was really weird to me that I saw that Reddit post and then almost immediately Family Matters or The Heart Part 6 was released, and I was like, okay, you're saying that you put all that information out there and that you like faked all this stuff, but like where's the proof, my guy? Like, is there some Easter egg? Like if you like put the transparency to the bottom on the picture of the 11-year-old girl. Is there a QR code that you can scan that says, haha, we got you, you dumbass? Like, I don't know, maybe this is just me thinking in 3 dimensions, but if I was like trying to trick someone into believing something about me, I would have a way to prove that that was the case, so that I wasn't just like creating rumors about myself that are now circulating and having no way except my word to back up that they are just rumors. Does that make sense? He also said that Whitney is apparently in New York with Kendrick, so this whole thing of them being broken up isn't the truth. What I'm going to say is we don't know if any of this is true. We don't know if this is even a person who knows Kendrick Lamar. I'm just saying that this is some stuff that I saw and heard. So let's ask the big question. Who won? I will say, I think the only winner in this beef is the audience. We got tea. We got 5 days worth of excellent discourse. We also got a song of the summer in Not Like Us, which is both hilarious and dark, like perfectly indicative of the world that we live in, because the song is literally about somebody being a fucking pedo, but it is also in Song of the Summer territory. As of me filming this conclusion, it was just knocked out of the #1 spot on the Billboard Hot 100 by some song with former white rapper Post Malone and former N-word sayer Morgan Wallen. So that's a song that I'm never going to be listening to, but Not Like Us did break records for being the fastest rap song to hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Broke the record for single day streams of a hip-hop song in Spotify history, which actually is a record that Drake previously held for the song Girls Like Girls, or Girls Want Girls, featuring Lil Baby. The song also beat Drake's record for most streams of a rap song in a single week. The previous song was In My Feelings by Drake, which was super cute for the first week that it played and so annoying for the entire rest of the time that it was viral. So I'm glad that it has been usurped from that position. And it beat Drake's record for fastest rap song to surpass 100 million streams on Spotify. And the previous record holder was God's Plan by Drake. And I fucking hate that song. That song makes me viscerally angry. I hate that song so much. Week streaming figure for a hip hop song since 2020, beating Drake's previous record that was held by his song Way Too Sexy, featuring Young Thug and Future. Of the few like #1 charting songs to be written by one person, and it's kind of hilarious because Drake said in one of his disses, like, I handed you all your #1s, when he was like dissing all the people who were jumping into the beef. And now Kendrick Lamar has a #1 that isn't featuring anyone. And you could say it's all because of Drake. So yeah, we won because we got the music, we got the tea, we got to enjoy ourselves and laugh and kiki. I think everyone else lost, including the women in the periphery of these men's lives and of the lives of anyone who was caught in the crossfire. Like, Rihanna is getting strays, Whitney Alford is getting strays, even fucking Drake's mom was addressed on a song. Like, the women in this situation were absolutely, definitely losers. Like, Drake is never beating those misogynistic allegations. Like, he is never beating the allegations that he absolutely fucking hates women, because everything that he has done step by step throughout this entire beef situation, and honestly for the past like 7 years, has given and solidified the impression that he has a deep and unmovable hatred for women that honestly feels like a him problem and not an issue with women. Like, yeah, you're 37 and you've never been married and you have a baby out of wedlock that you only sometimes take care of like your daddy did to you, but like, you could have gone to therapy when you were like 23 about that. We also cannot forget the fact that Drake is the one who first brought up women in this beef, because J. Cole addressed J. Cole mentioned himself, Drake, and Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick responded and said, fuck this big three shit, don't speak my name on a track with Drake. And then Drake responded by saying, well, your wife is fucking your manager. Mama, who said anything about wives? Who said anything about wives? Like, nobody said anything about that. And then every subsequent diss, he insisted on continuing to bring up Kendrick's relationship and his wife. And even then, Kendrick didn't stoop so low as to degrade any of the women in Drake's life. He didn't even degrade his kid. He didn't say, your kid sucks and I hate him and he's stupid and he's white. He could have said that. That would have been mean because that's a child, but he could have said that. He didn't even say that. He said, look, Adonis, here's some advice because your dad is on some fuck shit. I agree with the when you go low, I go to hell. I go to hell behind the people that I'm mad at. I don't bring a whole bunch of other people into the situation. If somebody pissed me off and I started insulting their mom, what does she have to do with it? Because the mom didn't piss me off. Yeah, she raised that person, but like at a certain point, you got to take responsibility. It almost feels like there was nothing that he could credibly say about Kendrick's rap acumen. So he had to stoop to talking about his family, specifically his partner. Meanwhile, Kendrick had plenty of material about Drake's rapping, his lifestyle, his family, his entourage, his psychosexual dysfunction. Like we could continue. We could go on and on and on. Back in the early 2010s, people were making fun of the fact that he played a kid named Jimmy who was in a wheelchair on a Canadian television show. Now there's like some serious allegations being brought to the table. And I think another aspect of this is that when Drake got cuter, he realized that he no longer needed to make music for the girls because the girls were going to want him anyway. He went and he got whatever filler he got in his face. He grew that beard. He got his abs etched and suddenly he felt like hot shit. But once again, what did he say? You thought the money, fame, and power would make you go away? That's not how that works. That's never been how that works. He took his mask off then and finally revealed who he was behind this whole nice guy characteristic, or this whole nice guy persona. Because if you remember the early 2010s like I do, I was in middle and high school around that time, and Drake's brand was that he was the nice guy of rap. He's Canadian, he's light-skinned, he had he still had like this baby face and baby fat, and he looked so harmless. And he was also making music, as Issa Rae famously said, for girls who went to college, or for Black women who went to college. Like, he seemed like the stereotype of the guy who likes you in high school, who you kind of like blow off. Now, thinking about it seriously, he was a television star at this point, so it's kind of crazy to say, but like, he's a television star in an echelon with people like Future, like The Game, like who was handsome and also rapping in the early 2000s or in the 2010s. Oh, like all three of the Migos, like those are people. And even like I personally find Kendrick handsome. I think he's handsome. But even like people like Kendrick Lamar, particularly at that time and in the milieu that he was swimming in, being nice the way that he was, being like emotional, sensitive, caring, the way that he portrayed himself to be through the music that he was making wasn't what was attractive. You wanted to be hard. You wanted to have come from a hard background and a hard life and turned that into lemons by becoming a rapper. And maybe you still sell drugs on the side, and maybe you still shoot people every now and again, and you are shirtless and you've got all these tattoos, and it's a very specific look. There's like I'm sure there's a comic that I can put up to illustrate what I'm talking about. So like, he's not the standard of beauty or the standard of attractiveness in the world that he is operating in. I remember I would always talk to you. Remember where you were when the Bedrock music video premiered, like the Young Money Bedrock song crossover? Because I was in my living room watching 106 in Park with my sister, and we were like, what is this? Oh my god. And now, like, every single person in that music video, flop. Tyga, a febophile, flop. Nicki Minaj, married to a pedophile, married to a sex offender, flop. No, I love her. I love Nicki. She's amazing. That's going in the Patreon only version. Who else? Who else is in that fucking music video? I don't remember. Drake, connected to sex traffickers, flop. Like, it's over for the girls now, you know? But I remember we used to talk all the time about how it just seemed like Drake was so madly in love with Nicki Minaj, and he just like wanted to be in a relationship with her so badly, but she would never go for him because he's not the type of guy that she's interested in. And now you see who she's married to. Thinking about it now, they're not that different. They're not like miles and miles apart. However, Drake didn't grow up in a difficult situation in his life. He's, sorry to say, man, was never a gangbanger, isn't one now. He's soft. He always had this like soft image about him at the beginning of his career that stopped him from being with the types of women that he was interested in, or that he seemed to be interested in at that time. Then over time, he moves on to putting on this hard persona that he spent all this time cultivating when he was around all of these people who had actually had those life experiences that other people, and it's not even just that like those women were attracted to that just because of some like vanity thing. Like, no, it's probably like they wanted to be with people who they could relate to, and they could not relate to this guy who grew up making money on television. Like, they could relate to the people who grew up in the same neighborhood as them, who had similar life experiences as them, you know? So he couldn't get the women through his street cred. He could get them through surgery. He did that. And once he started to get them, the mask came off. And it didn't just come off, but it became clear that the whole nice guy persona, the soft persona, the sensitive persona, was a different face of misogyny. And that's the thing that we basically spent the entire 2010s learning, you know, is that the guy who you decide not to go on a date with in high school, who like later ends up becoming a rocket scientist, and meanwhile you're married to the football player who blew out his knee and now you guys are struggling. And maybe your football player husband hates you and he's mean to you and he's not a good husband. And that nice guy's like, well, you should have married me because I was nice to you. And so in exchange for my kindness, I deserve pussy. Those are the same men in different clothes with different life experiences. And Drake transformed himself from that nice guy to that football player. But either way, the thing that's missing is humanity, is empathy, is care for actual human beings. What both of those people, that football player, this proverbial football player, and this nice guy, think they deserve women in exchange for something. The football player is for his good looks, his earning potential, and his skill, and his popularity. The nice guy, it's for his kindness and his personality. Either way, that's not about establishing a connection. Either way, that's not about seeing a woman as a person. It's about seeing them as an object, that essentially a prize that you get for showing up in a certain way. And whatever end of that extreme you go to, you're still on the same spectrum, which is, I hate women and I don't see them as people. And like, this is what we mean when we say that patriarchy also fucks over men, right? I know I'm getting kind of like lofty and esoteric here, but stay with me for a second. The only way for either of those people to heal, the nice guy or the football player, is to completely get off that spectrum and do inward work, but also interact with women in their lives as human beings, not as basically NPCs in a video game. but they don't realize that. And so it's like you're stuck on this treadmill. You can be that nerd who ascends to this high, these great highs. I mean, Drake is like, I'm pretty sure the #1 rap performer in the world at this point. He's in the middle of this beef. He's on this like world tour that he's doing. He has all this money. He has a closet full of Birkins that he's saving for his wife. Like, he's living a dream, but it's not the dream because he still doesn't have love. He still doesn't have the respect of women. And instead of looking inward and saying, what's the problem with me? Oh, maybe it's that I'm misogynistic. All that energy curdles and it turns outward. And it's like the problem is them. And then the misogyny just gets more and more aggressive. In conclusion, we should have never given a Scorpio this much power. We should have never given a Scorpio this much power, because the thing is that they know how to play unaware and unassuming and fly under the radar until they decide to let their menacing nature be truly revealed. Both people's legacies are going to forever be affected by the allegations made in this beef. I already didn't really stream Drake's music. I have not listened to one of his albums since Scorpion came out in 2018, and it was an album full of skips for me. Even still, maybe the only album that I return to regularly is Take Care, which came out in 2011 and is his only album with a entire song that is just Kendrick Lamar. Ironic. But even still, I'm going to think twice before streaming his music because of what I've heard. Similarly with Kendrick Lamar, as much as I want to say he wouldn't do something like be violent towards his partner, you don't know that about anyone. And so again, I'm going to think twice before streaming his music. I already kind of didn't fuck with Damn and the whole like theme of being a Hebrew Israelite. Like, if you've ever been to Gallery Place in Washington DC and spoken to the Hebrew Israelites down there, they're absolutely fucking crazy. Like, they're not on the same planet as the rest of us. They told my sister once that Africa is not real and Black people are actually from the Americas. The stuff like that is like, the Hotep stuff already was a little bit for me. And I will not believe wholly an allegation like that until it comes out of the mouth of the person who is the victim of it, or from a representative of that person, and they say, yes, this happened to me. Even saying, no, this didn't happen to me, kind of like, are we ever going to be sure? It introduces a doubt that will taint his legacy, at least in my eyes. This is a hard one because clearly musically Kendrick's songs were stronger than Drake's songs. Drake had a valiant effort with Push-Ups and Family Matters, but not just like the writing, the metaphors within the writing, the structure, the production, the musical content of every song that Kendrick Lamar put out was bar for bar better than what Drake did. And the things that Kendrick Lamar claimed about Drake were already niggling thoughts that the public had in their heads, but now it's getting even louder and louder. Why do you have somebody on your payroll who had a sex trafficking case against him? Why do you have that? Why are you comfortable to have that person around your child? That's really the long and short of it. We asked why he was texting 13-year-olds back whenever Millie Bobby Brown said that was happening. He didn't have an answer then. He still doesn't have an answer now. Why are you going on dates with 20-year-olds when you're 37? An entire human child could go from birth to graduating high school in the years between when the two of you were born. And you, for some reason, think that is a person that you need to be interested in pursuing something with. At a certain point, you have to realize it's not the women. It's not the women that you date. It's you, because those are little girls. Like, this is a slight tangent, but I'm so different now at 26 to who I was when I was 20. Yeah, there's lines around my eyes, and like my foundation sinks into my smile lines more often now than it did before. But even beyond the superficial aging stuff, the way that I think, the way that I move, the value that I place upon myself as a human being is so much higher than it was when I was 20 years old. If I was 20 years old, and I'm not going to get into that, it's suspect that you can't seem to form a connection with someone who is your peer. If a human person can get close to queerbaiting, it is Drake. It's weird. This shit is weird. The way he moves is weird. The things he says about Black people is weird. The way he seems to cosplay whatever brand of Blackness is appropriate for the things that he's interested in at the moment is weird. If we're going solely based off of the music, I firmly say that Kendrick Lamar came out on top and made a lot of points that will stick with me for a long time after this. But there are a few points that I want to make that I cannot and will not end this video without mentioning. Let's be 100% honest with ourselves. The best Drake is sensitive in his feelings Drake. We need to stop fighting our strengths, okay? My strength is making 2-hour-long videos about topics that I have aggressively hyperfixated on. Drake's strength is making music for women to shake ass and cry to, sometimes at the same time. I think he needs to take Kendrick's advice, go on an ayahuasca retreat, heavily supervised ayahuasca retreat, experience an ego death, and then move from there. Because actually, I can't do this anymore. I haven't listened to and enjoyed a Drake song. The first Drake song that I listened to and enjoyed in maybe 6 years was, I cannot remember what the fuck the songs are called. Oh my god, what was the first one that he put out? Push-Ups. And then I also listened to and enjoyed Family Matters, even though I have my ethical problems with it. There's actually 2 modes in which Drake is fun. He's fun when he's making sensitive, honest music about his feelings, but he's also fun when he's just being mean and petty for no discernible reason that we know about, but just because he wanted to. He did that on If You're Reading This, It's Too Late. He did that when he got at Meek Mill, and he did it again on 2 out of the 4 songs that he released during this Kendrick Lamar beef. That's fun. We can do that, majority sad songs for the girls, and then every now and then when someone pisses you off, drop a missile. That's all I'm asking. He needs to get back to the formula, okay? We also need to ask ourselves some questions about how long we are willing to prop up and facilitate the livelihoods of these people who, as far as we know, are absolutely deplorable human beings and have not changed. You can get on the internet all you want and P. boo-hoo-hoo about how you were going through a hard time and you were at rock bottom, whatever, when you did the horrible shit that you did. But that is not an excuse when you initially come out blaming the victim, and there's no world in which... Oh, I forgot to turn my light on. Ah! Oh. Okay. There's no world in which you deserve forgiveness unless you show an immense amount of change. Okay? People have problems with cancel culture. I think the real issue is that they don't want to change what they're doing because of a moral imperative. And I can understand that from like a selfish place, like if you're a person who just doesn't care about other people. But I also think that there is nuance to the discussion of cancel culture, which people like me with brains who do stop listening to or engaging with media from people who do things that we find deplorable. I also have a line, and that line, granted, it has not, the requirements have not been met frequently, or I can't even recall an instance in which they have. But if somebody shows immense growth and immense change. Like, I mean immense. Not just issuing an apology, not just putting a statement on Twitter, not just saying something on Instagram. Like, you are actually moving through the world in a different way than you had been before. Then I can end the embargo, because it's not saying you are dead as a person because you did something bad. It is saying, I have very little power in this world, and I'm not going to use that little power that I have to prop you up when I know you to be a fucking asshole. So I say all that to say, Drake does not deserve to be the #1 rap artist in America, and I don't know how much longer I can continue to entertain him. I've already pulled back aggressively, but a lot of the transphobia, misogyny, and homophobia that came out over the course of this beef makes me look at both Drake and Kendrick a little sideways from now on. Drake asking where Kendrick's uncle is so he can speak to the man of the house in the Heart Part 6, as though that's a diss, as though that's a horrible thing. Yeah, his uncle is trans. So, who gives a fuck? Like, the implication being that because he's trans and you're less of a man than him, you're just absolutely at the bottom of the barrel. J. Cole saying whatever the fuck he said about trans men on that stupid ass song, something about periods, and I'm not even gonna put the lyrics up because I read them and I found them to be triggering. And I'm not even trans masculine. I cannot imagine what it must be like to be either a trans masculine fan of that person or just a regular fan who gives a fuck about other people, and to see these people that you care about catching strays for absolutely no reason. What does this have to do with anything? Is it that you couldn't say anything about him not being able to rap because you knew that that would be a lie? So you said, let me pull something. Let's be honest. So your ghostwriter said, let me pull whatever the fuck I can out of my ass. That's so disgusting. And it's frustrating that he would even say, that you would even say that. That you would even say that. Like, when they came to you with that line, you should have said, can you give me something harder? Because, like, yeah, his uncle's trans. What that got to do with anything? That is a big L for both him and J. Cole. It just is. You lose when you don't have enough to say about the person that you're dissing, so you start just like randomly attacking groups of people that have nothing to do with the situation. Or even like if that person was gay or trans or whatever, you pointing that out or like making fun of it. What is the point of making disses? And even just like him saying what he said on the Heart Part 6. The Heart Part 6 is what made me say fuck Drake in this whole situation, okay? Because even just him saying what he said on the Heart Part 6 about, oh, you were molested, so that must be why you're so obsessed with me being a pedophile. Are you fucking crazy? Are you unwell mentally? What's the own there? You owned him because he was molested and he wasn't even molested? Like, what? Lacked reading comprehension skills, first of all. And second of all, what are you getting from dissing someone who was vulnerable enough to share their own life story and their growth from that place? This, like, Auntie Diaries is a song about him embracing a transgender member of his family and unlearning his own transphobia. Mother I is a song about him struggling under the weight of generational trauma that is not his to hold because that is not the experience that he had, but also realizing that his mother went through that and how fucking horrible that must be for her. What's funny about being like, haha, you have a transgender in the family. Haha, your mother was molested. What's funny about that? Not from the same people who were desperate to fuck the underage Jenner sisters. Not from those people. The thing is that Drake may have gotten the last word in, but there's no stretch of the imagination in which he won. My ranking of who won is the audience, Kendrick, and that's it. And the thing is, like, I used to be a ride or die for Aubrey Drake Graham. He was one of the first people that I followed when I joined Instagram in 2015, which is actually kind of funny because the 1975 was also one of the first, like, accounts that I followed. And wow, are those two men that I regret ever standing, you know? But like, I've known about this man almost my entire life. I started watching Degrassi when I was 3 years old, okay? This man has history in my life. All that being said, I can still acknowledge that he has been moving weird, very weird, for the past few years. Even if he isn't a pedo himself, he openly associates with people who, at the very least, had credible enough claims against them to be arrested for sex trafficking. You don't just get arrested for sex trafficking. They didn't say, oh, he looks like a guy who we thought might be the... No, they were investigating him, put up the case, and then had to drop the charges for whatever reason. For whatever reason. Allegedly. Like, he's like... Even if he's not queer in any way, he's turned people calling him soft into doing weird plays into this identity that, to me, gets as close as queer baiting as a human person can get. And at the very least, he seems to have fucked over almost every person in the industry that he has been friends with or even worked with, to the point of like allegedly fucking every girl that they were interested in behind their back or in front of their face, which is like, even misogyny and ownership of women aside, like that's a fucked up thing to do to people who you're supposed to be friends with. If you do that to people you're supposed to be friends with, what the fuck are you gonna do to me, a random bitch that you don't know? I think this is a man who needs every kind of therapy. He needs ayahuasca, he needs peyote, he needs hashish, magnesium taurinate, whatever it is that he can take to get himself off this horrible track that he's on. I don't live a life where I think that any human being is irredeemable, but I also am not afraid to say goodbye to someone who I, first of all, don't know personally in any way, who I just have a parasocial relationship with. But I'm not afraid to say goodbye to someone or something I enjoy when it gets to be too much for me. Like, he needs to become an actual person and not a shell of a horrible human being moving through life on autopilot, doing whatever the fuck he wants because he can afford to. He has a long history of being a shape-shifting culture vulture. He has a long history of being misogynistic. He has a long history of associating with horrible people. And that's stuff that, because of this beef with Kendrick, we cannot afford to ignore anymore. And then on the other side, we look at Kendrick, who I have been a fan of since 2015 at the earliest. And like, oh, actually probably 2013. Like, freshman, sophomore year of high school. Like, I think he's an amazing writer. And that's a huge thing for me to say as a writer and as like the English major that I was. I find his production so skillful. He truly inspires me. Like, the music that he puts out actually makes me think and makes me feel things in a way that very few rappers out today do. The only other one who I would have said that about previously was J. Cole, but he went and shat all over his legacy as well. Like, this all being said, his weird Hebrew Israelite shit is weird. It throws me off. And if he is a perpetrator of domestic violence, there is a level of hypocrisy underlying that would be so sad if it was true. Because you're calling out this man for being an alleged pedophile. Meanwhile, what are you doing at home? You're both bad people. We don't know that that's the case, but if it is the case, it's almost laughably terrifying. And I say this as someone who grew up with a Gemini father. He might not be physically abusive, but he could still be a terror nonetheless. So the thing is, we don't know. His wife, fiance, ex-fiance, whatever, she hasn't said anything. So I will avoid passing full judgment on that situation. But I'm looking sideways now. And I wasn't before. Well, I was a little bit. But I'm looking even more sideways. The other thing is that, like, Not Like Us is walking a very fine line as well. Yes, he's saying they're not like us because they're pedophiles and we're not. But there's also this underlying implication that belies all of this music that he's put out, that it's not just the pedophilia or the sex trafficking. There might be some element of queerness that's going on there. And that's weird as well. Again, Supreme hypocrisy from the writer of the song Auntie Diaries. However, that is a song about him contending with that. So it's not to say that he's perfect. It's not to say that he's gotten over any kind of like limiting beliefs or bigotry that he's had in his heart. But it is like there's some light implications in the music that Drake is weird because he might be gay, or he might be a chaser, or he might be genderqueer in some way. That's something that I'm that's something that I'm projecting onto the situation, but like I could see it. Like, and that's weird. Him not being able to be a masculine man and deal with women in the way that men deal with women is weird. And that is a dimension of, that is an element of homophobic beliefs. So that's all I have to say about that. Let me know what you thought about this video. Let me know what you thought about this beef in the comments down below. I would really like to hear from you and chat with you. And even if you can't think of anything to say, please just comment algorithm, because that actually really helps my videos to get pushed out and shown to other people. If you liked anything that I said in this video, please give this video a big thumbs up. Once again, it really helps in the algorithm. And consider subscribing to my page. The button is right down there. If you look next to it, there's also a join button. If you become a member of this channel, there is a series of perks that you will receive on a monthly basis in addition to my eternal gratitude. Those should hopefully be up on the screen right now, but if they're not, all the information for that will be in the description bar down below, along with a link to my Patreon, where I have memberships for people who are interested. Thank you so much for watching this probably incredibly fucking long video. I appreciate your time and attention, and I will talk to you in the next one. Bye!